Yeah! Woo! Happy Thursday to those who celebrate Big Rich, TD, and Fletch with you. And the past 24 hours, to say that it has been foundation rattling, landscape shifting, I think would be an understatement. I think that would be an understatement.
I think 24 hours is giving it a lot there. Almost 21 hours.
Yeah,
20 hours.
Less than 24 hours. We've seen now 3 legends of coaching collegiately at the football level and in the NFL be handed their walking papers. After 24 years together in New England, it is expected today that Bill Belichick will step down from his role as the head coach of the New England Patriots. It was announced that Nick Saban will be retiring after 6 national championship wins for the Crimson Tide, 7 overall during the course of his coaching career at the collegiate level, retiring from college football. Pete Carroll will take on a special advisory role, stepping down from his 17-year tenure as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, including their only Super Bowl championship during his time leading the program, which, I mean, cumulatively, we're talking about 60-plus years of coaching experience vanishing in thin air over less than 24 hours. So, TD, good morning.
Good morning.
What are we thinking, man?
Well, when you put it all like that, it sounds bad. It doesn't sound as good. I think it's crazy. I think there's a lot of things to unpack here. Obviously, Bill Belichick, huge. Huge. Because, look, Fletch here, you've been revolving around the sun for 27 years. Your entire life that you remember, Bill Belichick has been the coach in New England.
Yep.
So, it's just bizarre. But, look, it's not like he's not going to find a landing spot. He wants to coach. He'll coach somewhere. It does seem a little odd. This guy, and look, you say this, Rich, of everybody is expendable in the NFL.
Yep.
Everybody is. But, look at Bill Belichick, 24 years. How many Super Bowls did they go to under him? 14?
No, not 14. They, I want to say, went to 10 during that
many?
time. Yeah.
Okay, because was he coaching though with what's the guy before Brady?
Wait, Bledsoe?
Yeah, was he coaching with Bledsoe?
Yeah. He was his coach. Yeah, they didn't go to Super Bowls with Bledsoe.
They went to one. They lost to Green Bay, didn't they?
I don't. Maybe. I'm pretty sure the first Super Bowl they went to in Belichick's era was the 2000 season, the 2001 Super Bowl where Brady won it.
You're right.
And that was his second year. That was when Bledsoe got the concussion, I believe, and then he came in. It might have been even 2 people had to get hurt before Brady got in. But, we're literally talking, straining to remember the beginning of Belichick's time in New England because it's a quarter century ago. It's an insane run. It's unprecedented, really, when you think about modern football. I realize there may have been some coaches who have coached longer with one franchise, maybe. But, in modern times, think how many hirings and firings have gone down just in the division he coaches in during his run in New England. It's absurd.
And when you look at the NFL today, Rich, you look at a Mike Vrabel, who I think everyone collectively agrees is a pretty damn good head coach, out after 6 seasons. So what Bill Belichick has done, and TD, that was the first thought I had this morning, what you said about the fact that my entire life, sports fan life, Bill Belichick has been the head coach of the New England Patriots. And I got to thinking this morning when I sent you guys the text, I was like, wow, Belichick, Carroll, and Saban all out within the last 20 hours or whatever it's been. I was thinking, well, my entire sports fan life, those 3 have been at the posts because Carroll's been there for 14 years. Saban's been there for 17 years. And it's kind of wild when you wake up and you look, okay, the best head coach of all time in the National Football League, it says mutually parted ways, lost his job this morning. The best head coach all time at the college football level retired this morning. It's a little bit wild when you really get down and think about it. The fact that on January 10th, we wake up on the eve of the NFL playoffs for 2023 or 2024, and the story is completely shifted on its side because now it's like this entire day, probably all day tomorrow too. This is the focus. These 3 guys losing their jobs, 3 of the best to ever do it.
Yeah. Well, we were talking about it yesterday that it's been quiet, that I think a lot of people were expecting more changes, and Vrabel came, and then the news obviously about Belichick and Pete Carroll came, and so that shifts everything, like you just said. But also Nick Saban, a bit of a surprise there, because think about this. This wasn't a disappointing season like the New England Patriots have had over parts of, if not all three of the last 3 seasons, 4, including the Cam Newton year in New England. Pete Carroll missing the postseason 2 out of the last 3 seasons, some disappointing outcomes there in Seattle. Like Nick Saban just played for a national title. He was in the playoffs, and they took the national champion all the way down to the wire. They lost in OT. And so that may be an actual retirement. Nick Saban has talked for a long time about how he's dismayed at where college football is heading, and it's possible he doesn't coach anymore. I don't know. We'll talk to Mike Rodak, who covers the Alabama Crimson Tide out there, and we're going to actually speak to Phil Perry sooner than that, who covers the New England Patriots. That's coming up at 6:30 to get some insight. He's down there in Foxborough on a daily basis covering this team, so we'll get some up close ideas of what's next for these coaches or what's next for these organizations, because like you said, it's insane. We're talking about such consistency, and now all of a sudden a vacancy.
Did you guys see what was at the bottom of Nick Saban's statue this morning out there in Tuscaloosa? There was a bunch of Dr. Peppers and gas station cream pies. I guess that was like his favorite treat. And then he's been endorsing Dr. Pepper for years and years and years. And I did
what about the Aflac duck? Has anybody seen the Aflac duck? Could somebody call?
That was my question too. It's like, how has no one put a duck down there yet?
Or I just picture like a very sad white duck, just an orange-billed white duck, just waddling around next to the statue, just depressed, just
tears welling up in his eyes.
I did read this morning in one of the articles that's been released. I feel like there's been 1,000 about these 3 guys, but one of them said Saban cited health concerns and the longevity. But Rich, I think you're right, because he has been the best college football coach in the country for so long. And maybe Nick Saban feels like he can't be the best college football coach in this new era of college football. And there's got to be a certain amount of ego there, right?
Yeah, there's probably that. Or maybe he's just tired. I mean, maybe he's tired. He's like, you know what? It's time for me to hang it up. I had a great run. I'm going to call it. That one does feel like a retirement to me. That's what I'm leaning towards. Yeah. Now, Belichick mutually parting ways. That is, hey, Belichick, we want you out. And he said, you're going to have to write me a check. And they did.
Yeah. That's exactly what it looks like to mutual. Me too. Yeah, very mutual.
Well, Tom Curran reported weeks ago that this was decided months ago that Belichick was going to be gone at the end of the season.
Maybe. I don't know. It didn't really sound like that to me with that final press conference with Bill Belichick. It sounded like, he was going to go in there business as usual, and he was telling the truth about it, and they were still in talks of what they were going to do.
Well, what's interesting about that is if what Tom Curran was reporting was sourced from the top, like he had connections to, name it, somebody close to Robert Kraft or Robert Kraft himself, and he got that information, that's unbeknownst to Bill Belichick. Mm-hmm. So if they left Germany, for example, all those weeks ago, playing the neutral site game, and Robert Kraft pulled Tom Curran aside and was like, this guy's out of here. Like, Bill would be none the wiser until the conversation comes to his doorstep. Yeah. And I look, I'm not saying that he didn't feel the writing on the wall or the writing all over the internet, whether you logged on to Twitter or X, or if you read the articles, especially the local media coming out of the Boston or New England area. The writing was on the wall. And so I don't think anybody was surprised by this news. However, I will say this, a week ago, I was leaning heavily in the direction that Bill Belichick is safe, that he's probably going to keep his job. You referenced the press conference. It didn't sound like a guy who is ready to move on. A lot has changed over a week's time. The discussions that he's had with Robert Kraft, the changing landscape. I mean, Vrabel becoming available may have been an impetus for this to change, because right. that could potentially be a target for New England. So sometimes a domino needs to fall to encourage the next domino to fall. We'll see. We'll see where all these coaches land and end up. Pete Carroll, it sounds like he's still with the Seahawks organization, so he's not available. He's going to be golfing.
Yeah, I don't buy it. I don't
he's
buy
an advisor for the Seahawks. What do you think? He's going to be working every day.
Oh,
What-
yeah.
Yeah, because those advisory roles, which, by the way, does Pete Carroll seem like he wants a guy that would want an advisory role?
Guys, we've seen this many times. People work for major conglomerations, multinational enterprises. When they take on these special advisory roles after holding posts for like 15 plus years,
Right.
we know that they always stick around and help
Right.
the transitioning, the next regime
Right.
have success. We know how that goes.
What
he was asked
advisory
about-
role?
When he was asked about this advisor role, he said, "We're going to figure that out. We don't really know right now, but I'm grateful for the intention that the organization has to try to find something that makes sense. So we'll see. I don't know. I think Pete Carroll probably gets another job.
No, he gets a check.
Yeah, that's what the advisory role is.
By
Is
the
they haven't come
No,
to the
I don't
same
mean-
agreement that they did with Bill Belichick of here's your check, we'll see you later.
I don't mean another job with the Seahawks. I mean another job in the NFL.
No, you're looking at this all wrong. The only reason why you do that is so that another outfit can poach Pete Carroll and then steal all the trade secrets. You're paying him for his silence. You're paying him so he's a Seahawks employee, aka you can't go work for the Rams against us. You can't go work for the 49ers against us. You can't go work for the Cardinals against us. Like, you are a special advisor, a very special advisor who's going to get a very special check to not work for any of the teams that we tell you not to work for. And you got to check in with us if you do want to work for somebody else, but we're going to pay you really well not to work.
Well, does he have time left on the contract?
Yeah. Well,
so they're paying him his contract is what they're doing.
yeah, or some part of it.
Right.
Look, they're working out that part of it
And I'm sure
right now
that if another team stepped up though and said, "Hey, we'll take that contract off your hands," all of a sudden, well, I don't know if we need an advisor anymore.
Well, again, it depends on what team. It depends on what part of the season.
Chargers.
I think, look, do I think that it makes sense for him to go back to LA? Yeah. But I can promise you the Seahawks, if he's a special advisor, if the Rams come a call and they say we need a defensive coordinator, the Seahawks are going to be like, no, you're not leaving to take the defensive coordinator job with the Rams because they're in our division, you maniac. So get back on the golf course and you know what? Turn off your phone for a little while. That's it. As special advisor, we want you to turn off your
advice.
The one that's probably more interesting is Bill Belichick, though, because we've been throwing out some names over the last few weeks. The Washington Commanders have come up, obviously. The Titans have come up since Vrabel leaves. The Chargers have come up, even though I don't think that's really realistic. But Albert Breer dropping another name this morning that I think might make the most sense, and that's the Atlanta Falcons.
Now, why do you think it makes the most
Because
sense?
young roster with a lot of talent that clearly has been miscoached.
I'll tell you why it makes sense to me. It's because for a long time, Arthur Blank has been trying to poach the magic that has been in New England. There have been a lot of lieutenants from New England that have received jobs down in Atlanta. We're talking about coaches. We're talking about front office personnel. And I think that there is, in Belichick's thoughts, probably interest in working for a franchise with an owner who has unlimited funds. Arthur Blank owns Home Depot. So Arthur Blank has enough money to pay Bill Belichick.
Travis pays Home Depot like a ton of money.
Yesterday I did.
Now, there was a really sentimental moment at the podium yesterday. Obviously, for a coach to have the success he has, there's no question there's a strain on the family. There's a toll that a family has to pay, and you need to have supportive people around you. Pete Carroll, try not to get a little misty-eyed when you hear him speak about his wife, Glenda. Now, do you guys picture Bill Belichick having a similar outburst in front of the media? I'm just asking. I know. Look, that was very beautiful what Pete Carroll did. But do we expect Bill Belichick to get a
Didn't
little
he dump his girlfriend?
All right, so listen,
man,
I mean,
well, he get a new one. It could be the angel of his life.
yeah, Rolling Stone gathers no moss.
could talk about his dog. His dog could be the
He's about
angel
to
of
be
his
moving
life.
to Nashville. He needs to find a new girl over there.
I thought he was going to Atlanta.
Country
Imagine
harlot.
he was like, imagine, yeah, he accepts a job immediately. Or like Atlanta, like I'm really interested in the fat bottom girls who make the world go round. So I'm thinking about taking that Alabama coaching job.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it works. By the way, when I listen to Pete Carroll tear up there, and it's heartfelt, it's heartwarming. Doesn't sound like a guy who was looking for an advisory role.
No, not look. Here's the reality as I see it, and we'll hit a halftime here and continue this conversation. But I really feel strongly that there is a youth movement happening at the collegiate level, at the pro level. This is a young man's game, and it has been for a long time. But typically, we were resigned that statement really to the player level. Well, now it's having a major effect on the coaching level. A lot of teams looking to get younger in that spot. Yeah, if you missed it, the conversation so far this morning has been centered around Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, expected to come to the podium and part ways this afternoon, I guess, on the East Coast.
Right after we get off the air, 9 a.m.
Right, on the
Our
East
time.
Coast, afternoon.
At noon.
Sweet.
You can only be at noon for 1 minute, or actually for 1 second. So we are going to see Bill Belichick step down after 24 years. He and Robert Kraft sat down parts of this week and hammered this out. And apparently there's no ill will. They parted ways amicably. After 14 seasons, Pete Carroll is stepping down into an advisory role. So the Seattle Seahawks also will be looking for a head coach. He is the purveyor as head coach of the first and only Super Bowl championship during his time in Seattle. And Nick Saban, head coach of the Crimson Tide no more after 7 national champions for Saban individually, 6 with the Crimson Tide. He is going to step down in Tuscaloosa after 17 seasons. That'll be a retirement. But yeah, going back to the statement I just made about youth movement in the coaching ranks. We saw it here in San Diego State. Rocky Long announces his retirement, followed by Brady Hoke, who takes over for him, announces his retirement. You don't retire unless you're a gentleman who's ready to maybe step away from the game. Now, in the case of Rocky, he realized very quickly the retired life was not for him, and he resumed his coaching career. Maybe it'll be the same for Brady. We'll see. Like I've explained to you and expressed to you guys many times, it's an addiction when you're a coach. It has to be, especially if you're a talented or successful one. So it's difficult to get that out of your system. So we'll see what happens with these 3 coaches as they move on from the posts they've held for parts of 2 decades or more in the case of Bill Belichick. But everywhere you look, young coaches are getting opportunities.
And don't you guys think it's kind of like the tail end of the quarterback resurgence we've seen, where it's like the guys who had been around forever, the Bill or the Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, even though he's still quote unquote playing, but Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Ryan, Peyton Manning, Eli Manning, like all those guys are out, and all of a sudden all the new young, really athletic quarterbacks are coming in. And by the way, I think football's taken a little bit of a hit because of it, because of the consistency that the previous quarterbacks offered. We're going to start seeing the same thing with coaches. I think the guys who have been here forever, Bill Belichick, obviously first, and who knows where he's going to end up, but then it's going to be Andy Reid moves out. Then it's going to be Pete Carroll moving out. And so Mike Tomlin moving out. And we're going to probably go through a phase where we have a lot of really young coaches across the league, even though we do right now, but even more so in the few years where that might bring a hit to football, where it's not as good as what it's been. And it's because the mainstays who have been there. Rich, we haven't done this yet, and I can't believe we haven't, but you're a very emotional guy.
Yeah.
You're a big fellow with a big heart, and Bill Belichick drafted you. So if you want the floor here for a couple minutes to say thank you to the coach, we'll load up some Sarah McLachlan for you. And just let you run.
Yeah. I don't think I need minutes. I think
High fives all around.
Yeah. Listen, Coach Belichick, if there's one thing that I appreciate about what he did was he changed my life. And not a lot of people talk about what happens when you get drafted, but it changes the trajectory of your entire existence. You go from being a great college football player, if you're so lucky, to being an NFL player, and it happens in an instant. Nobody can ever take that away from you. And it doesn't matter what happens next. You're a drafted NFL football player, and that is a really cool thing. Now, they gave me great opportunities in New England to continue my career with them. And then beyond that, just being a part of the New England Patriots gives you a pedigree, especially being coached by Bill Belichick, which echoed throughout the rest of my career. And it gave me an education that was simply unmatched. We used to talk about it. It's kind of like going to Harvard. Like when you leave the New England Patriots with Bill Belichick, you're just viewed differently after your time there. But I will say this. Cutting me was the biggest mistake of his life. And that son of a bitch, when he moved on from Tricky Dicky Hornberger, there was a rage that burned inside of me, and there was no greater win in my entire playing career than when the Arizona Cardinals, in the first season after I left New England, went into Foxborough and rocked your world, Belichick. It was the world of sword. It was the mighty on mighty, and the mighty prevailed. See these guns? 24-inch pythons, bitch. Woo!
Good. Yeah.
Peace out, coach.
So glad you got fired.
No, it was glad you're gone. No, it was an amazing experience, obviously, being a part of those Patriots teams. He's the greatest coach in the history of the game. He was a boundless resource for all of us. He knew everything. So
any chance at all Belichick is done with the coaching thing and starts hosting his own NFL Network, NFL history show? Because we know that's what he really loves to do. He did the NFL 100 a few years ago.
Angry host.
No, he was great. I don't know if you guys watched that. The NFL 100. Like, Rich, you talked about his different voice when he's talking in team huddles and stuff. Different voice when he's talking on TV about something that he's actually passionate about.
Yeah, well, listen, he's a great communicator. You can't be a coach for a quarter century at the NFL level. Well, really longer than that, including his time in Cleveland, but a head coach for the Patriots for that long and not be great at what you do, communicating and speaking in front of groups. And so, yeah, it doesn't shock me at all that if that's a route he wants to go. But this very much so feels to me like if the Patriots didn't hand him his walking papers or initiate the conversation, he would just be back coaching with the Patriots next season. So I don't think he's done. He's about, 15, 16 wins away from
15 from the lead.
From leading the NFL in total wins as a head coach.
Shoot, man, he could knock that out next year.
Yeah, it's possible. Just go undefeated. That's all.
Right.
Or close to it. Maybe 2 losses. With whatever franchise.
Coach the Eagles.
I think he's well, a lot of people are saying the Eagles make sense all of a sudden.
Yeah, hey, I know.
And by the way, Matt Patricia is already their defensive coordinator. You don't need to hire him. You just need to shift him over to offensive coordinator.
True.
Bango bongo.
Any team that has any question at the coaching position, you're going to find a way to make it make sense.
Even just to have that on your off-season resume. Yeah, we interviewed Belichick. We passed.
Yeah.
We passed.
Right.
Yeah, it's an interesting time in the league in sports. We're seeing some crazy things happen over the past, I'm going to say 48 to 72 hours. Some expected opportunities have unveiled themselves. Speaking of which, a really unexpected opportunity for me. Look, I'm 37 years old. I haven't thought about my testosterone ever. Like never once did it come up in my mind, but I had a buddy who's a former player as well, was talking to him, and he's been doing this testosterone replacement therapy. And I asked him why. I'm like, why did you even get tested? What were you feeling? And he starts rattling off some symptoms. He was like, he's like, I just roll out of bed some mornings and I don't feel all that enthusiasm I used to feel to face the day. Or, there are times where I get to the gym, and he's like a workout fiend. Like he's in the gym every single day of the week. And he's like, and I'll leave the gym early. Like I'll just skip exercises because I don't know. It's just these little subtle things, changes about my personality that I've felt. And he's younger like I am. He's in his late 30s. And so I went and got my T levels checked at the Man Zone at Golden Triangle Plastic Surgery with Dr. Roy David and his staff over there. And I found out that there's a range of testosterone levels. It goes 300 to 1,000 for somebody in their late 30s. And I was in the low 300s. And I was like, oh, wow. So that's the reason for all this, or it could be a reason for all this. So I started with my testosterone replacement therapy, and guess what? Fixed it. It was incredible. It was like a light switch went on. It's been really, really an awesome change, a very positive change in my life. And if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, I think annually you should go get your testosterone checked. I think it's something you should make a point of, and no better place than the Man Zone at Golden Triangle Plastic Surgery. Nobody should be embarrassed about this. If you have subtle little things that you're noticing about your personality or your life or your energy levels, like I was experiencing in your late 30s, or if you're in your 50s and you're thinking, geez, there's a couple of things about my life I wish I had back. I'm telling you, you go and it's easy. It's really discreet. I mean, you walk into this place, it's like any other office building. They have this awesome lobby. You have a little beer fridge, a little bourbon you could tipple for yourself while you're getting tested, and then you walk out of there. I go there once a month to pick up my supply, and that's the only interaction I have with anybody other than getting retested to make sure the testosterone levels are up. And they are. So if you're like me and you're interested in getting your T levels checked, do what I did. Contact the Man Zone. Mention 760, by the way, and schedule your free consultation. Get started on your journey today. Themanzone.com. Visit themanzone.com.
Obviously, some big news out of New England. We're going to talk with Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston, next.
This update presented by Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air in the NFL. After 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowl wins, Bill Belichick and the Patriots decide to go separate ways. Pete Carroll also out as the Seahawks head coach after 14 seasons and 1 Super Bowl win. Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's head coach after 17 seasons in Tuscaloosa and 6 national championships. Over in the NBA, Kawhi Leonard inking a 3-year, $153 million contract extension with the Clippers, which, believe it or not, is actually less than he could have made. And he's taken a little bit less so that James Harden and Paul George can stay with the team. And in college hoops, Kansas loses to UCF yesterday. Kansas was ranked number 3 in the country. In the last 2 days, the top 3 teams in the country all losing to unranked teams. Here's their promise to you, San Diego. Team Anderson's expert drain technicians will restore flow to your drain for $63 or it's free. That's right, $63 or it's free. They're Anderson Plumbing, Heating, and Air, and nobody wows clients like they do.
Big Rich and Fletch, San Diego Sports 760. We have another pair of tickets to go see Def Leppard and Journey out at Petco Park, happening August 30th. Keep listening for your chance to win those. If they're looking for tickets and info, Ticketmaster.com. livenation.com. I screwed that up. livenation.com if you are looking for tickets and info there, or just keep listening for your chance to win. Obviously, a lot happening today. Pete Carroll, he's out in Seattle. Nick Saban, one of college football's coaching greats, has said he's stepping down. And then out in New England after 24 seasons, Bill Belichick fired, let go. I guess it was mutual. And I'm telling you, mutual means they didn't want him, and so they had to pay him. So they had to cut the guy a check. That's what mutual means out in New England. But, man, that is going to be the talk of the day, the top story for sure. And joining us right now from NBC Sports out in Boston and the Next Pats podcast, Phil Perry. Phil, how are you, man?
Wild day here. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no question about it, Phil. Holy smokes. A lot happening all across the football landscape. And maybe if we have time, we'll get your thoughts on Saban stepping down, retiring in Alabama, Pete Carroll, who used to coach alongside Bill Belichick, moving on into a special advisory role in Seattle. But the news of the day, after a quarter century coaching the New England Patriots as the head man, Bill Belichick parting ways. What was your knee-jerk reaction?
Well, honestly, first, guys, it's as crazy as this day may be now, especially the fact that we have a press conference scheduled at Gillette Stadium at noontime, which is in some ways surprising to me. Maybe we can get to that a little bit later. But as surprising as it may be, this was the expectation. It was our expectation, at NBC Sports Boston. My colleague Tom Curran reported about a month ago now that the decision had been made. And, based on conversations he had, especially after that Colts game, the decision had been made to part ways with Bill Belichick, that it was really just a matter of time. Ownership was never going to make that move in season, but now we've gotten to the end of the season. It's a 24-year partnership. My understanding is this was going to take some time. I think people in New England were either A, getting a little antsy if they didn't want Bill Belichick around as head coach anymore, or B, getting their hopes up that he might be able to stay over the course of the last couple of days, because we see Black Monday come and go. Tuesday comes and goes. Wednesday comes and goes. Still no official word on whether or not Bill Belichick is going to be around. And so today it is official. They are going to move on. But it's been our understanding for a while that they had been planning on this, because this season was really Bill Belichick's opportunity to make his case to remain head coach of the New England Patriots. And it was the worst year that he's had as a head coach during his tenure here in New England at 4-13. So, not a major surprise on our end. So the gut reaction wasn't quite the gut in the fan base are feeling today.
For the Patriots since 1992. So not only for Bill Belichick his worst season, but the worst season in over 30 years out there in New England. If something would have happened in the past month, if there would have been some kind of turnaround, and it wasn't the worst season of Belichick's career, it wasn't the worst season since 1992, do you think he would have stayed, or was it a month ago the Kraft family said, yeah, we got to make a turn here?
I think they understood that things really needed to change on both the coaching side and the personnel side, right? That's Bill Belichick's realm as well. He's the guy who controls the 53-man roster. He's drafting the players. He's making decisions in free agency. This is one of the worst rosters in the NFL, and that was apparent. You know, one of the worst losses that this team has seen in 3 decades in Dallas, then at home to the Saints in back-to-back weeks. I mean, it was a comedy of errors on a weekly basis early in the season for the Patriots, and they did rebound in some ways, and I give players some credit, and some even would credit Bill Belichick that, you know, they're playing hard for him toward the end of the season, but it just became very clear that they weren't talented enough. And the biggest issue, guys, you know, this goes back several years now to the end of the Tom Brady era here, but the quarterback decision-making process, the quarterback handling over the course of the last several years here has been such a mess that this situation that we're looking at now, where the Patriots are moving on from the greatest coach of all time, is indicative of the fact that even Bill Belichick can't survive a bad quarterback situation. It has been that bad, especially at that position, but overall on the offensive side of the ball, it has been that bad. It has been that boring. It has been without promise for several years now on that side of the ball, that I think the team understood that it had to make a change, and we're going to anticipate a pretty significant philosophical shift here with whoever ends up taking that job, both the head coach and general manager.
Phil, we got 3 hours today to celebrate the career of Bill Belichick. We only have about 3 more minutes with you, so I do want to get your take on who's going to fill that role. You say a giant philosophical change, but is there any chance it's not, and it's Mike Vrabel coming over from Tennessee and stepping in and continuing the Patriot way?
That's something that I would not anticipate. While he looks like a tremendous candidate on paper, and while the Crafts, I know, have a lot of love and respect for Mike Vrabel, my belief is that Gerard Mayo, who has been on Bill Belichick's staff and was drafted by Bill Belichick in 2008, will be elevated to the head coach's role. Obviously, the Patriots have to go through an interview process. They have to satisfy the Rooney Rule, meaning at least 2 external minority candidates have to interview for this head coaching job. And so this is going to take some time. And you may be surprised to hear me say that we're going to see a serious philosophical shift. And it's going to come as a result of maybe a Bill Belichick guy being elevated to that position. But I do believe that's what would happen. If you know anything about Gerard Mayo and Bill Belichick, you know they're very different people. And while Gerard Mayo has learned a lot of football from Bill Belichick, I think it would be a mistake to assume that they believe all the same things when it comes to modern football and what it takes to win in today's game. Gerard Mayo has been a huge part of what they've done defensively over the course of the last few years. He rejoined the staff in 2019 after a few years in the business world following his playing days. But you'll get a much different feel, not only in terms of his personality at the podium. He's a big personality. He loves to joke around. He's going to be very different from Bill Belichick in that regard. But I think football-wise, and especially in terms of team building and what you emphasize on the roster, I think that would change quite a bit as well if and when Gerard Mayo becomes the head coach.
Phil, I spent 3 seasons playing with Belichick, my final season being the 2011 regular season, 2012 postseason. 12 years later, he seems like the same guy, same interest, vigor for the game. It doesn't feel like he's done. What's next for Belichick?
I don't think he's done either, Rich. And I'm curious to see if any more head coaching jobs come open after Wild Card Weekend here. The first team name that I would bring up as it relates to Belichick is the Atlanta Falcons. I've been told from people who know Arthur Blank that he has been very open about how urgent he feels the need is to win right now. He has hired a lot of first-time head coaches in his tenure as Falcons owner, and my belief is he's going to want something different. And how much more different could you get than Bill Belichick, who has been in the league for almost 50 years now at this point? And if you get a quarterback down there, if you're Bill Belichick, so I think the interest from the Falcons end will be there, but I think the interest will be there from Bill Belichick as well. It's a hop, skip, and a jump away from Jupiter, Florida, where he spends a lot of time in the off season. He's still on the East Coast, so if he wants to shoot up to Nantucket, he can do that as well. But the roster isn't bad, guys. It's a quarterback away, and we know how hard it is to fill that position. But say they get Kirk Cousins, who has some family ties to the Atlanta area. If you are able to hire Kirk Cousins, hire Bill Belichick, maybe Bill Belichick brings Josh McDaniels with him, who is now available to be his offensive coordinator, you could win a lot of games in what is a bad division on the eastern part of the country where Bill Belichick, I think, would like to be. and you have a chance maybe in the next couple of years to break that Don Shula record and get into the postseason on a couple of different occasions. So that to me feels like a great fit. Of course, guys, what would be the most fun is if the Dallas job opens up and you get a Bill Belichick, Jerry Jones partnership. I mean, wouldn't that be absolutely juicy? We would love to see that too.
What if you get a super team down there in Dallas? Jerry Jones, Bill Belichick, Josh McDaniels, and Nick Saban as his defensive coordinators. When our powers align, Captain Planet. Hey, Phil, awesome as always. Thank you for your time. We'll do it again soon. I know it's going to be a busy day for you in Foxborough. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate you guys. Talk soon.
There he goes. Phil Perry, NBC Sports Boston. Next Pat's podcast. Been on that show a couple of times. Really, really good broadcaster. Okay, coming up next, we got to get to this Aaron Rodgers story. There's another wrinkle to the whole Jimmy Kimmel, Aaron Rodgers, Pat McAfee fiasco that started last week. But first, I got to say, you look good in dark green. Wow.
Well, thank you.
What would you call that? Is that hunter green?
And yeah, I guess. Yeah, maybe it's a grayish
Can you give
green.
us a little bicep flex?
What?
Yeah. Just
Everybody just sit down. Oh my God! Hey, you're back off. You're back off. You're back off. Now listen, we're hearing a lot of teams. A lot of teams trimming the fat. Okay.
Yeah.
This team had to too. Okay. We had to cut it back a bit. ST Fat Loss knew it. That's right. It's gone. It's gone. ST Fat Loss. They came in and said, "Look, we can help you trim that fat." Because there's a lot of it.
Yeah, we were super fat.
Super fat, which, I guess worked out well for them because they had a lot to work with.
Yeah, my neck circumference, equator. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but it's down now.
Oh,
it's down now. Because you dropped over 35 pounds in 8 weeks.
Yeah, it happened really fast. It actually made me nervous at first where I talked to Wayne and Chloe. I was like, hey, am I okay? And they're like, yeah, this is pretty standard. You're going to lose weight fast on this plan.
Yeah. I think we all did the same thing because, look, I was skeptical going in. I've done the fad diets before where I've lost weight, but then as soon as I stopped, I gained it right back. That's what happens with fad diets. That's how it works. You stop the appetite suppressants, you start eating again. It's science, but I was skeptical, went into this thing, lost 31 pounds in 8 weeks, and now we're keeping that weight off. And that's the secret that stfatloss.com has. They have the secret to not only lose the weight quickly, but keep the weight off. And you're going to do it without exercising. You're going to do it without counting points or calories or any of the things that the fad diets ask for. And you're going to do it while you're eating the food you still love to eat. So go there right now, stfatloss.com. The consultation is absolutely free. The coaches, the staff over there, Wayne, Chloe, they will hook you up just like they did us. stfatloss.com. Coming up, what is going on with Aaron Rodgers and Pat McAfee? Are they no longer friends? We'll talk about it next.
Big Rich, TD, and Fletch with you. Beautiful Thursday morning here in San Diego. A little cold, a little blustery, a little wet outside. However, we, I believe, have clear skies in the forecast. So if you're surviving the morning, we're glad you're with us.
Some coffee.
Yeah.
That is some coffee.
We just made a pot of coffee. There's this rule. You use one bag per filter. You know, the coffee grounds are like, it's a predetermined, I don't know what you call it, measurement.
Set amount in a bag.
And we use 3 bags per filter.
We were using 2, and then we were like, it's not quite right. And then yesterday you were like, I found the recipe, boys.
3 bags.
Triple bag.
We're triple bagging it now. So we are fired up, and the 7 o'clock hour will be even more so. Speaking of fired up, the old Twitter, the new X, it was pretty fired up over a lot of statements that had been hurled back and forth between Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Kimmel via the Pat McAfee show and Jimmy Kimmel's show. So those were the 2 venues where this was happening. But like all things, when it's interesting, when it sparks the interest of the zeitgeist, it goes to Twitter, and that's where it rages on. And so a lot of people posting and replying and commenting and reposting. And really what it boils down to is this all goes away now because Aaron Rodgers, his season's over. As it happens many times, you know, he fades into the ether in his offseason, going on darkness retreats or drinking ayahuasca or whatever he does during his off seasons. And
do you drink it?
Yeah, there's a tea.
It's like a tea.
It's like a root tea.
That sounds disgusting.
It does. And apparently there's a lot of diarrhea and vomiting following your ayahuasca experience.
No wonder everyone loves it. What? Obviously it's good for you.
So yeah, he usually fades to black at some point during the NFL postseason or offseason following the NFL postseason. And then the Pat McAfee show continues on. But there were a lot of reports yesterday that Aaron Rodgers' last appointment with Pat McAfee was Tuesday, and McAfee kicked him off the show. Basically, was like, "Yeah, I don't want him coming back next week." And the article I read from the New York Post inferred at all like that this isn't. But I don't think any of that's true. In fact, we were discussing this at break, and it's like this sort of just feels like normal business for the Pat McAfee show.
That was always going to be Aaron Rodgers' last appearance because the Jets season is over. Aaron Rodgers is signed to appear during every season he's playing football or his team is playing football. Like, that's the contract. So I think eventually that did come out yesterday online, but it was like 6 or 7 hours of everyone saying, oh my God, Pat McAfee's such a badass. He saw all this going on. He fired Aaron Rodgers. No, his contract was done. Like, people don't understand this is an exchange. Aaron Rodgers gets paid handsomely to show up on the Pat McAfee show every week.
Well, it was on CBS, it was on CNN, it was on the New York Post of that Pat McAfee made the call to no longer have Aaron Rodgers on the show.
Which, by the way, all of the outlets that you just described are part of what Aaron Rodgers consistently pokes in the eye, the mainstream media.
Yeah.
You know, and so don't for a second doubt that mainstream media is going to try to grab and wrestle the narrative back while he's quiet. And he typically is quiet. Like, he's not a big tweeter. He's not a big Instagram poster. Typically, like, maybe every once in a while, there'll be like a really ambiguous tweet or Instagram post that everybody will be like, what is Aaron up to? But
he's just high when he does that.
Right? Outside of maybe the book of the month, you know. But yeah, outside of that, I mean, it's you know, he's pretty quiet. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see other efforts, you know, over maybe the next week or so while this is still relevant and this topic is still hot, for people to get their get backs. And then it's all going to go away.
We will go away. You don't think there was any pressure at all from the mouse saying, hey, look, man, Jimmy Kimmel, he's our guy over here, ABC late nights. We're not going to mess with that. Sorry.
If
Pat.
there was, they're stupid. You know how much interaction this was getting over the last couple weeks? You know how much Pat McAfee's rating skyrocketed because of this. Jimmy Kimmel's rating skyrocketed because of this. You would think that the mouse is just sitting back collecting his cheese.
Well, we had this discussion, right? We were talking about this earlier this week. It's got
mouse might have planned this whole freaking thing.
That little clip, you know, whatever it is, 4 to 6 minutes long, whatever we put out there on our Twitter account, got like 20,000 views because, I mean, simply put, in the caption, Aaron Rodgers is a genius. Pat McAfee is a genius. Jimmy Kimmel's a genius. And guess who gets to reap all the benefits? The parent company, Disney, who owns ABC, who owns ESPN, who pays Aaron Rodgers. You know,
Right,
so,
right,
I mean,
right.
like the checks for all three of these entities are coming from the same place.
Yeah, man, I don't know why Pat McAfee tried to backtrack so much on it. He came out immediately after Jimmy Kimmel had a problem to say, look, I'm sorry I had anything to do with it. Where to me, when I watched it, Pat McAfee was just kind of being a moderator.
Yeah.
He just bring
Well,
it
that's
out.
what Pat does. He tries to create all the stories around his show, but he is not going to be the story, which is why he had Nick Saban on weekly, which is why he had Aaron Rodgers on weekly, which is why he has JJ Watt on weekly. So JJ Watt can cuss on ESPN and ESPN gets mad, but it's JJ Watt. It's not Pat McAfee.
Yeah,
Right,
he's
right.
the one who said the F word, not me. He was just wearing a funny t-shirt.
Pat McAfee has this all figured out, and I don't necessarily love his show, but that dude is a freaking genius.
I do like his show.
Or at least he's an industry plant of some sort who's just figured it out.
I think his show is very watchable. I think it's fun. I think it moves quickly. I think he does a great job with it.
I think overall, one of the highlights of watching sports entertainment now, or I should say sports talk entertainment right now, is the fact that they're like, much like head coaching, there is this like youthful movement. And whether, look, Pat McAfee, I mean, he's not a super young guy. I mean, he's in his 30s or his early 40s. I don't know exactly how old he is, but like, this is somebody who is trying new things. He's trying to break paradigms, and I appreciate it. Like these weekly guests, to your point, Fletch, they're really interesting. And the topics of conversation that come up are a little bit out of bounds sometimes, but I appreciate that too, because guess what? The topics that I'm interested in talking about sometimes are also out of bounds.
Right. But it feels more human. It feels less scripted. It's just I think it's fun.
Right.
What else I think is fun is diving in, getting to play some of these apps here, like DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of the NFL, because they just dropped a brand new way to play fantasy football with Pick Six, and new customers can make their first NFL picks and get $100 back in Pick Six credits if they don't win. It's easy to do. All you got to do is download the new DraftKings Pick Six app now. Sign up with code SD760. New customers, like I said, can get up to $100 back in Pick Six credits if your first football pick set doesn't win. Only on DraftKings Pick Six with code SD760. What's that code again? SD760. Yeah, you're going to want that one because, like I said, it could be worth $100 back in Pick Six credit. The crown is yours. One offer per new customer. First qualifying pick set winnings less entry fee must generate negative number. Max reward up to $100 equal to amount of negative number issued in non-withdrawable Pick Six credits. Valid for Pick Six use only. Expire after 1 year. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. 18 plus in most eligible states, but age varies by jurisdiction. Eligibility restrictions apply. Valid only in states where DraftKings Pick Six operates. Void where prohibited. See terms at picksix.draftkings.com. Coming up, what do we got? I don't even know.
Coming up, we got Mike Rodak.
I'm like,
he's going to join us to talk about the new vacancy with the Crimson Tide out there in Alabama. Also, we're going to check in Kansas City. My goodness, the Chiefs are kind of limping into the postseason, but so are the Dolphins. Who wins at Arrowhead? We'll find out next.
This update is presented by Cal Coast Credit Union. It's hour 2 on Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. And the news of the day, Bill Belichick out after 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowl wins. It's being reported that he and the Patriots decide to go separate ways. There will be a press conference with Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick coming up at 9 a.m. Pete Carroll also out as the Seahawks head coach after 14 seasons and 1 Super Bowl. Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's head coach. He was 17 years in Tuscaloosa, 6 national championships with the Tide, 7 overall. In the NBA, Kawhi Leonard inked a 3-year, $153 million contract extension with the Clippers. And I know that sounds like a boatload of money, but it's actually less than he could have gotten. And he took less because he wants to keep James Harden and Paul George with the team as well. And in college hoops, another one goes down. Number 3, Kansas losing to UCF yesterday. The top 3 teams in the country all losing to unranked teams in the last 2 days. Get a 4.78% APR auto loan at Cal Coast Credit Union with their Cal Coast Carbine service discount. Details at calcoastcu.org. Federally insured by NCUA. Restrictions do apply.
Yeah! Woo! Happy Thursday to those who celebrate. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch with you on this fine Thursday morning where breaking news is now the standard. Over the course of this week, we have seen the landscape shift in ways that I think some expected, but many did not, especially in such short order. This morning announced Bill Belichick and the Patriots expected to part ways. There's going to be an afternoon or noontime press conference held in Foxborough. Pete Carroll has already held this press conference. This happened yesterday following the announcement that he'll be stepping down into a special advisory role with the Seahawks. They have a head coaching vacancy. The Crimson Tide long-tenured head coach Nick Saban has announced his retirement. It is mass hysteria everywhere you look around college and professional football. And I mean that in 2 ways. One, all these coaching announcements, but 2, like at the college football level, everything has changed. I mean, the bowl weeks didn't look the same as they used to. You have transfer portal. You have players getting paid millions of dollars in what looks like salary, but, fair exchange for name, image, and likeness. This year has brought and has been wrought with so much change to especially the game of football, that it's almost going to look completely different in 2024 than it ever has.
So there's a couple reactions to this because change, I think, is the word of 2023. Everything went through a ton of change, and I think football is no exception. But when you look at Major League Baseball and the NBA, I think a chief complaint around a lot of things was, well, they waited too long to change. Like, is this potentially just a good thing for the sport of football? Now, I don't think NIL is necessarily good for college football, but I think it was an inevitability. And I think in the next few years, they're going to figure out the best way to make it work to where it doesn't deplete what college football is. And then in the NFL, when you look at the turnover we've had at quarterback, now the turnover we have at head coach, like, I don't think that's necessarily good for football right now, but it's a change that maybe needed to happen for the next era of the NFL and the next era of college football. Is there any chance this thing is going to just get better and better as we go? And we should be thanking football for being adaptive rather than Major League Baseball and NBA waiting too long and ended up being reactive.
Well, are the NFL doing that, or is the NFL doing that? I mean, eventually there has to be change. Eventually people will retire or get fired or, I suppose, die if they don't. So eventually there would have to be change. And I mean, Bill Belichick, 24 years as a head coach. Now, look, the guy wins. The guy had a lot of wins. 6 Super Bowls, for God's sake. It's
9
not
appearances, by the way. I did
9 appearances. 9 appearances. It's just a few. I mean,
yeah.
But I guess a few too less. He needed more, I suppose. He needed a better season this year, and if he would have put together a better season, and I think it's more than that. I think that the team itself was very poor, and it did have a terrible roster, which was built by Bill Belichick. So you can see the Kraft family going, "What are we doing right now?" And now it's time to pull the trigger and make the change, and let's just have it happen right now. At some point, that Band-Aid would have to get ripped off, because I don't think Bill Belichick wants to walk away from this. I mean, you said it earlier, Rich. I mean, it's in your blood. I mean, coaches want to coach. This is a chess game. And I mean, this develops your mind. So a thinking coach wants to get out there and coach.
Yeah.
They don't want to sit on the sidelines.
No, I don't think he's done yet. I don't think that Bill Belichick is going to be happy hanging up his whistle. I kind of feel the same way about Nick Saban, although we'll catch up with Mike Rodak, who covers the Crimson Tide out in Alabama here in just about 23 minutes. So we'll get a boots on the ground per view of exactly what's next for Nick Saban. But there are certain guys who it's in their blood. This is all they want to do. And so it may feel like it's an end of an era today, but does the era continue elsewhere? So Nick Saban, I mean, maybe he goes and coaches in the NFL. Maybe he goes coaches a different college football program somewhere. Rocky Long announced his retirement, and the very next season, he was a defensive coordinator in college football. You know, that happened right here in San Diego. So it could happen in Alabama and Tuscaloosa as well, where Nick Saban leaves the Crimson Tide and he takes on a coordinator job or a head coaching job somewhere else. Same with Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick and the Patriots part ways amicably. Maybe he takes a job with the Falcons. Maybe another job opens up. Dallas, Philadelphia, both of those places may have vacancies if the Cowboys and the Eagles have early bounces from the postseason. So there are options, and I don't think Belichick's done.
No, I don't think so either. There's a lot of options right now. I mean, you got Philadelphia could be an option. Pittsburgh could be an option. I don't think so, but there's talk about that. Atlanta, LA, Las Vegas. I mean, I don't know of a team that wouldn't really like to have Bill Belichick come over.
Now, Rich, we got your big emotional reaction in the first hour. If anyone would like to see that, it didn't go as I expected, honestly. I thought there were going to be tears. Instead, there was fury and hate and vitriol.
Yeah, right.
It's up on our TikTok account at Big Rich TD Fletch, at Big Rich TD Fletch. Go follow us and like that new video we just posted. It's Rich Orenberger screaming about the time Bill Belichick cut him.
Yeah, he shouldn't have done it. Biggest mistake of his career. And I'm pretty sure at noon in New England, he's going to address that.
Yeah, okay,
I'm fairly certain he'll. If my name doesn't come up multiple times during this press conference, I'm going to be a little astonished, but whatever.
Well, and skeptical of what are they trying to hide here?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, oh my God, Seren Petro is our next guest, and I just looked at his contact on my phone, and somehow there's a picture of Seren.
Wow,
just
there
his
he is.
Full face.
Oh, dude, that's a lot of Seren.
That man likes his barbecue.
We're gonna talk to him about the KC BBQ, but we're also gonna talk about the Kansas City Chiefs' chances against the Miami Dolphins. Now, earlier in the season, they had their way with them. That was an international game. It was a neutral site game. Now the Chiefs draw the Miami Dolphins at home. At first blush, or I really shouldn't say at first blush, as we near the weekend, TD, has your opinion changed about this game at all?
No. Well, no, other than I'm kind of leaning heavier on Kansas City as we get closer here. I just Arrowhead Stadium, I think, will be such a burden on Miami. The weather, the noise, and if Miami can't get their offense clicking, this is going to be a long day for them.
Yeah, no question about it. All right, joining us right now, Seren Petro. We just mentioned does a great job covering the Chiefs. Soren, when we look at your profile picture on your contact information, it is all face. Like you got as close to that camera as you possibly could when you took that picture. And now anybody who texts you gets the updated contact info. I mean, you were an inch from that forward facing camera. Were you not?
I have to take a look at that. I don't know. I think it's more like ignorance in what I was doing, right?
I'll send you a screenshot.
I don't even know. I don't call myself, so I don't know what it looks like.
Oh wait, yeah.
I'm glad you told me now, because trust me, my face is bad enough. Nobody needs to
wait,
see it.
Fletch is going to send you. Did you just text it to him? All right. So look at your phone right now. You could take a second, so you can. I'll vamp for a second here, so you could take a look. Yeah,
that's a little close. I don't know why that is.
I'll tell you what, though, I liked it. Yeah, you're a handsome gentleman. Right. I will say that. I mean, I think you are underrating yourself there, my friend. Are we under?
You need glasses.
Yeah, actually, I think I do. Are we underrating the Chiefs, though? Right? Because This is a team that's been to back-to-back AFC championship games since Patrick Mahomes has taken over. Andy Reid has completely renovated KC since Alex Smith was his starting quarterback, and then moving on seamlessly to Patrick Mahomes. This is inarguably the team with the most recent playoff experience and playoff wins. So a lot of people make a lot of noise about the regular season and what it looked like in the month of December, but this is nothing trumps experience. Are you more on that side of the fence, or are there more nerves about what exactly we saw during the regular season heading into the postseason now?
We live in a world where everything is 0 or 100.
Right.
So most everything is either grossly overrated or underrated now, and maybe in sports, we actually try to get a decent rating. The Chiefs are that team, though, that I think you either overrate them or underrate them. I don't think anybody's got a lock on what they are, because when I hear people talk about how good they are, I'm like, you haven't watched their games, because they're incredibly sloppy. They have a lot of penalties. They drop the football everywhere. They turn the ball over. Ridiculous turnovers. They're wide receivers. Receive is in the title. Can't receive the ball. They can't catch the ball. That's a fundamental problem. So, I've had some people, I went on, in Vegas, and they're like, hey, this Chiefs team, they're going to flip a switch and here they go. I mean, I hope so, but I don't think so. I've seen 17 games of sloppy football. I don't know why we think, suddenly they're going to get it together. They catch punts inside the goal line, at the 2-yard line. I mean, they just do things where you're like, you think this is a first-year coaching staff. It's not. It's almost all veterans except for a couple of guys. There's always some staff turnover. And, so from that standpoint, no, they're not the same old Chiefs. When I hear people, run them down because, well, offensively they're 15th in points allowed. Well, if they could get out of their own way, that number would be a lot better. They do a lot of things right. They do have Patrick Mahomes. They do have Andy Reid. They do have Steve Spagnuolo, who's done a brilliant job with this defense. They are very talented on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to come down, can they get out of their way, and can they go to another level on offense? Because, I've had people ask me, can they lean on their defense and do it? Modern football, the answer is no. I mean, we've seen the defense play great. It's the number 2 scoring defense in the NFL this year, yet they've got the worst record during the Patrick Mahomes era. So clearly defense isn't what bails you out. When they have to go get points, they could always go get points. This year, they haven't been able to get that done, and they're going to have to find a way to do that and score at the times that they actually have to score, because that's been the biggest difference with this team this year.
Seren, did you see the 3-minute Hallmark movie trailer that the Chiefs just dropped about the postseason?
Oh God, no.
Okay,
I have not.
you should
take kids to school. Doing mild exercise so I don't have a heart attack. No, I have not done.
Well, after you get off the phone here, go ahead and look that up, and then I feel like the NFL may come down on the Chiefs. This may cost them points in the game. It's pretty bad.
No.
It's pretty bad. But how do you feel about their chances against Miami here?
Listen, the franchise is 0-3 against the Dolphins in postseason play, so that's a little scary. I mean, no one who played in any of those games has anything to do with this game that's going to be played here. And then the other side is the Dolphins have never won a playoff game under 40 degrees, so something's going to give in that category there. I feel pretty good. Look, the Chiefs have a great interior 3 on the offensive line. The tackles have been the question mark. Juwan Taylor's athletic and has talent, but is just kind of lost at times. A lot of penalties, gets grabby. Donovan Smith is supposed to be back. That is an improvement for the Chiefs, because the 3rd-round rookie Wanya Morris showed some early flashes, but has been exposed here of late. Getting Donovan Smith back will help. And so if you want to beat the Chiefs off the edge is a great way to do it, because the tackles are the weakest link. Guard to guard, Tooney, Humphrey, Trey Smith, that they're as good as it gets. But the Dolphins don't have that. All their DNs are hurt.
Yep.
They're grabbing guys off the street, so they can't take advantage of what is the biggest weakness. McCole Hardman came back healthy. Listen, McCole Hardman I liken to a really talented center fielder in Little League that stares at the hot air balloon all the time. Like, he'll make some great catches and he'll hit an inside the park home run, and then he'll let the ball just go right by him. He quits on a ball, it gets picked. The guy's on the ground, he doesn't go over and touch him down. Lets him get up and start running. I mean, but he is. And I said that all of that is true. Like, brain dead at times, yes, that's accurate. One of their 3 best receivers, sadly, that's also accurate as well. And so that helps them horizontally. You'd think his speed would help him vertically, but he doesn't track the ball well. So probably center field's a bad analogy, left field. Let's put him in left because he doesn't track the ball well. But, he does bring an element to this offense that will help them. And I think that's just going to be too much for the Miami Dolphins here. Like, I think this team should win. It'll be a very big disappointment if they don't beat the Miami Dolphins on a 3-degree day in Kansas City. But can they win 3 in a row to get to the Super Bowl, 4 in a row against playoff caliber opponents? Highly unlikely that they can stay out of their own way that many times.
Unbelievable.
Really talented little kid that likes to stare at hot air balloons. That was genius from Soren Petro. Soren, when you are watching this season and your fan base, when you see Patrick Mahomes a little more emotional than in years past, making some big comments in post-game pressers, I do wonder, after being the golden boy of Kansas City and the golden boy of the NFL over the last 5 seasons, has the Kansas City fan base changed anything to knock him off the pedestal a little bit after seeing a few different times this year where he was maybe less than golden boy-esque?
Listen, the fans are spoiled. Any fan base that's seen this kind of success, Patriot fans clearly got spoiled with everything that they got to see, and the Chiefs fans have become spoiled. This is the worst year of the Patrick Mahomes era, but it's like the 7th best, the 9th best year in Chiefs history. Stop your complaining, stop whining. They're not all going to be perfect seasons. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of, I think, just spoiled brat nature to the fans, which is just normal when you've been given as many good things as the organization has given the fans of late. And there's a little bit of where, like, I think people got tired of calling me and saying, the receivers suck. The receivers can't catch. Creed Humphrey keeps rolling the ball back to him on, all the brain dead things I've talked about that this team has done shockingly, and being a sloppy football team. They get tired of that. And so, like, it's like when you go to a restaurant, you tell the waiter, hey, the food's not right. And they bring it back. It's still not right. Yes, to see the manager. And the assistant manager comes. That's not good enough. I want to see the manager. I want to see the general manager. I want to see the owner, right? You keep going up the food chain. And they started to arrive at Patrick Mahomes late in the year. Well, Patrick's got to do this, that. I'm like, listen, to quote Gisele Bundchen, he can't throw it and catch it. Okay. He can't do both. Like, it just stops right there. Get off his ass. That's all he can do, is throw the ball and hit him in the hands. And there are plays, they had a 4th and 25 where they went for it on one of their early losses. He actually hit Sky Moore in the hands 26 yards down the field, and he didn't catch it. I mean, Sky Moore had to jump, but it's professional football, right? You're being paid to do this. Jump up and catch the ball. It's amazing. I know, and I think the frustration was a little bit of finally, I don't think he was really just mad at the refs. I think he has been covering for the wideouts. MVS drops a perfectly thrown ball in the end zone to beat the Philadelphia Eagles, and Patrick comes out and says, I could have thrown it a couple of feet shorter. I mean, come on. Like, the reality is MVS catches balls like a 7-year-old catches a nerve, trying to pin it against his body. Doesn't matter that he's 6'3" or 4. His catch radius is about 2.5 feet, right? Because if he can't body catch it, he can't catch it. And here's Patrick Mahomes taking heat at the podium, or at least trying to take the heat off him and say, I could have thrown it better. That was him finally like, enough's enough, right? I got to pick up the ball off the ground on the snap, and that's an underrated part. Creed Humphrey's tremendous once the ball's away, but his snaps are terrible, okay? I almost wonder if they were auditioning him for guard when they had Nick Allegretti playing center last week, when the game didn't matter because they didn't have enough offensive linemen, so they had to rotate the interior 3 in there, and Creed was over at guard. I'm like, this don't look so bad. Allegretti can at least get the ball to Mahomes. So it starts at the center, right? And then his receivers drop the ball. Travis Kelce's getting older or banged up or distracted. I don't know, probably a little bit of everything in that mix. And he's just like, good Lord, what do I have to do? And he finally exploded and melted down. Yeah, some people got on it, but I think if you really look at what it is, my God, why didn't that happen 10 games before? I got all the sympathy in the world for that kid and finally losing his cool.
Host of the program, Sports Radio 810 out in Kansas City, Soren Petro. You can follow him at Soren Petro on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter. Joining the show this morning, Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. Okay, so it's very nearsighted right now with the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, we're so used to asking questions like this, like, will the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year? So I'm going to ask you that question. Will the Chiefs win the Super Bowl this year?
Listen, math will always tell you, even when they're at their best, a Super Bowl favorite going into the playoffs is anywhere from 18% to like a really strong favorite might get to 40, 41%. So the solid mathematical answer is always no. And to break it down to that, I would quantify their chances this year in the 8 to 12% range. Like, they're definitely not the favorite. Can they win it? Yes, they can win it. If you ask me, I'm a mathematically minded guy. And so I would tell you no. The answer to that is no, they're not going to win it because I just look, They can beat the Dolphins. They can beat the Bills. They almost did it in the regular season. They can beat the Ravens. In fact, I think that's the last thing the Ravens want to see is a Chiefs team that's been an absolute thorn in their side come rolling into Baltimore with them having all the pressure in the world on getting to the Super Bowl as the number 1 seed. And can they beat the 49ers? Sure. They can beat anybody that's out there, but they can also lose to almost anybody. They just, for whatever reason, call it a Super Bowl hangover, call it distractions, call it fatigue. You mentioned 5 straight AFC Championship games. They played about an extra season of football in the playoffs over these last 5 years. Now, that's not everybody, but the big boys, the guys that have been around, Chris Jones, Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, they've all played all that extra football. Fatigue, whatever it is, all of it coming together. There's nothing I've seen this year that says this team can beat 4 playoff caliber teams in a row. So I will say no, and I feel pretty confident about it. I booked my trip to the Super Bowl for Wednesday to or Tuesday to Friday because I don't think we're going to need to be there wall to wall covering the Kansas City Chiefs.
Is it Taylor Swift's fault?
No, God no.
Okay,
And there are people. Listen. I love that question. That's fantastic. You know, everybody has a girlfriend, everybody has a wife, and we all know, God bless them. They're always the better half, but they're also at times always an insufferable pain in your ass and always going to be a time suck. That's just life of a relationship. And does Travis Kelce happen to balance things differently? No, he's had girlfriends before. Is this one much more public? I mean, sure. Is there another element to it? Yes, there is. I mean, I'll say this. I don't know how many people ever had to go to Buenos Aires to, pick their wife up from work, which he did during the bye week when she was on tour down there. So, yeah, there's probably a little element that she's a bigger distraction than he's had. But look, life happens. People have kids. You know, that draws you away from it because you got to get up at night. You got to do those things. Life happens and pulls you away from your job. Even precious football, which we think, trumps everything in everyone's world. They're human beings. And so, yeah, there's a little bit of that. I think more so, Travis Kelce's 34, 35, had, 7 or 8 surgeries. He said it this year. He went into the year saying, I want to play as long as I can. And about week 8 on his podcast, he was talking about, I can't lift this arm over my head. And I think about retirement all the time. And so I think it might be you're just watching a great player that's coming to the end of the line. And I think when you start thinking about retirement, you probably should already be retired. And maybe that's something he's fighting through. Maybe the playoffs will reignite him. And we'll see the old Travis Kelce, and maybe it's gone. And that's just part of the reason why the Chiefs can't get it done this year.
Host of the program, Sports Radio 810, Soren Petro, absolutely one of our favorite guests on this show. And we'll see if the Chiefs make it a little bit deeper into the playoffs. Maybe we're going to have another visit from Soren really, really soon.
I want a Z-Man sandwich.
I do. The Z-Man sandwich with the Joe's. Ooh. Hey, listen, we have a date out in Kansas City one of these days, Soren, and we're not going to do light exercise. We're gonna do a lot of eating together.
We're headed to Joe's. It's on me. If you boys come to KC, we're going to Joe's. It's on me.
You're the man. Next time we're in Missouri, we're going to hit you up. There he goes, Soren Petro. Like I said, one of our favorites for good reason. Okay, coming up next, from one great guest to the next, Mike Rodak, Alabama, covers the Crimson Tide, has done a great job doing that for years now. We're going to get the scoop from boots on the ground in Alabama about Nick Saban retiring from the post of head coach. But before we scram, I want to talk to you about Ocean View Dental. Many of you have heard me talk about Dr. Jordan Colby over at Ocean View Dental in the past. But if you haven't, if this is your first time, if you don't like your dentist or you just kind of feel like you need one that you can trust more, you need one that, is a bit more gentle. I mean, there are some bad experiences with dentists out there. Dr. Jordan Colby is your man. And I know this because he's my dentist. I had a lot of work that needed to be done. I had a tooth extraction that I needed. I had 3 implants that needed to go in. I could barely chew my food. And so I needed to see a real dentist, somebody who has a background in oral surgery. I needed somebody who could do everything in their own office. I was told by my former dentist that all of this work would take longer than a year and a half. Which, that's a daunting enterprise to undergo. So when I sat down with Jordan Colby, I 100% trusted his plan because he showed me the digital images of my procedure. He showed me exactly what the plan entailed, and it all happened at his office. And so this major dental work happened there, but also all of my teeth cleanings now, my family's teeth cleanings, the upkeep that you do in your normal life, all of that happened through Dr. Colby's office. He has one office in Oceanside, but another one in Fallbrook, and they provide the personal and professional attention that you and your family deserve. Check them out at oceanviewdental.net. And when you get over there, tell them Rich sent you. Again, that's oceanviewdental.net, oceanviewdental.net.
He's a writer for Alabama 24/7. Nick Saban, he retires out in Alabama. We're going to talk with Mike Rodek next.
This update presented by Cal Coast Credit Union. Starting off in the NFL after 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowl wins, Bill Belichick and the Patriots have mutually decided to go their separate ways. Pete Carroll also out as the Seahawks head coach after 14 seasons and 1 Super Bowl win, and Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's head coach after 17 seasons in Tuscaloosa and 6 national championships. That's a lot, I know. In the NBA, Kawhi Leonard inks a 3-year, $153 million contract extension with the Clippers that actually saves them some money to keep Paul George and James Harden around as well. And in college hoops, with Kansas losing to UCF yesterday, the top 3 teams in the country, according to the AP poll, have all lost to unranked teams in the last 2 days. Get a 4.78% APR auto loan at California Coast Credit Union with the Cal Coast Car Buying Service discount. Details at calcoastcu.org, federally insured by NCUA. Restrictions do apply.
It's Big Rich, Sheedy, and Fletch at San Diego Sports 760. You still have a pair of those Def Leppard and Journey tickets to give away. They're going to be out at Petco Park August 30th. Tickets and info at livenation.com, or just keep it locked in here to win them. Also, if you have the free iHeartRadio app, or if you don't have it, I guess, make sure you have it on any device you own. That way you can listen to us wherever you go. San Diego Sports 760, Big Rich, Sheedy, and Fletch, right in your pocket.
Let's piss some people off here.
Who are we pissing off?
How do you get a smart speaker to listen to our show?
Oh, man. Any smart speaker.
He's done. So we welcome in Mike Rodak to make sense of all this. Hey, Mike, good morning. Did you expect Nick Saban's announcement today?
To some extent, yes. But it still came as a shock. I think, when that tweet goes through, and even when that email comes later that says Nick Saban announced his retirement, like it's still a little bit of a shock to the system. But I mean, it's been something that, going back a few months, has been, I'd say widely speculated. I'd say the rumors, the noise, the smoke about it through November, December was unprecedented in terms of its volume, if you will. And so, people, I think, were expecting it to some degree, going into the Rose Bowl. But then, you come out of the Rose Bowl, nothing really happens right away. And you're like, all right, maybe he's going to stay. I'd say the one that really raised my antenna was the only time to this point still where Nick Saban's talked after the Rose Bowl was on the Pat McAfee show last week. And McAfee asked him, I'd say fairly directly, about coming back next year. And Saban kind of punted on the question and didn't really give a straight answer, and kind of brought his answer to a different direction. And that's when I was sitting there and thinking, man, and you could see, he was at his beach house. There's the palm trees in the background. And you're like, man, this guy could very well be thinking about it. And then even yesterday, there was some buzz in the morning that, people were afraid it might happen, and there was going to be a 4 p.m. meeting, and 4 p.m. comes, and there was the news. So I guess they were right.
Hey, Mike, was this an actual retirement, or did Nick Saban have everything to do with this, or did somebody else have a hand in it?
No, I think this was 100%, his call, his move. And really from, the reporting that we've done at 24/7, there was a lot of people in the building that did not know about it. Perhaps even until players were told about it. And I think that would fit Saban's MO, that he wanted to tell players first, that he didn't want his players to learn from it from somebody else or from, Twitter or whatever. And that, really up until 4:00, until that meeting, people did not know it was going to happen. And I think there's always been a huge amount of reverence for Nick Saban in this state. I think he's the most powerful person in the state. He's more powerful than the governor. And I think he obviously earned every right to make the call, when he did. So I honestly don't think there was even a shred of him being pushed out at all.
Mike, when you look at the changing landscape of college football, how much of NIL and the transfer portal, how much did that have to do with Nick Saban deciding to hang it up?
So I think it certainly played a role. Again, from the reporting that we've done, when he told players yesterday, he cited health concerns. And specifically, if that meant him or his family, he was not specific about that. He is 72. So age, I think, and health and all that, I think is, certainly part of it. That's what he told players. But it's hard not to envision NIL and the absolute drain it is on coaches. And it's something that Saban's talked about, just how difficult of a month December was, with the calendar being the way it is now. You play the SEC championship game. You have the transfer portal opening right after that. You have early signing day, when pretty much all your freshmen are signing, and you're trying to recruit them at the last minute. You have coaches that are leaving for other jobs, and then you're trying to get ready for the playoffs. You're trying to get ready for Michigan. And you also have Christmas in there. And Saban has 2 grandchildren and a third on the way. And to have December be that jam-packed, and that's something he talked about, was tiring. It's a drain. So I think, that did play a role in just the calendar being squeezed, and having, you're basically recruiting every player on your roster every single year to come back and not go into the portal. Plus you're recruiting your freshman class. Plus you're recruiting players to come to you through the portal. And that's not what Saban signed up for, as a college football coach when he first got hired by Alabama 15 years ago. It's a lot different. And I think there certainly was an element where he's just, done trying to play that game.
Mike Rodak joining us this morning, Alabama staff writer for Bama 24/7, part of 24/7 Sports and CBS Sports on Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. Mike, when I look at Nick Saban announcing his retirement the same day that the Patriots and Bill Belichick amicably announced their parting of ways, the wheels get turning. The wheels get turning. I mean, there have been plenty of movies about the band getting back together. There have been plenty of movies about, one last ride. Is it possible? I'm not going to say likely, but is it possible that these two things were not accidental? That potentially Bill Belichick and Nick Saban could see a reunion in their future?
I can't 100% rule it out. I do have that thought in kind of the back corner of my mind of maybe not, the decisions being coordinated, because honestly, from everything I've seen at New England, I think Bill Belichick wanted to come back. And I think Robert Kraft just couldn't come to that point to bring him back and to continue with the way things were going. And to not, to pass up the opportunity to maybe have Mike Vrabel or Gerard Mayo as your next coach. But with all that said, Belichick seems to want to continue coaching, and there's already buzz about him maybe going to the Falcons. And Nick Saban, I think, is wired very similarly, where I think he loves the routine of coaching, the teaching aspect of coaching. I don't think he likes the dealing with agents and dealing with NIL and dealing with all that. And would there be a job for Nick Saban where he could purely focus on football and then also have that time away in the off season that college coaches do not have? Would that be appealing to him? I cannot rule it out right now. I think the odds and the money and the likelihood is that Nick Saban is not going to come back to coaching. And I think play golf in Florida. He just bought that $17 million house in Jupiter, and, maybe do TV on College Game Day or something. I think that's the much more likely scenario. But I can't sit here today and say that Nick Saban hasn't talked to Bill Belichick and I haven't discussed that. It still would not 100% shock me.
Mike, who do you bring in to replace Nick Saban?
So I think the biggest name, and this has been true, I'd say, for the better part of a year, has always been Dan Lanning at Oregon. And I know for many, many years it was always Dabo Swinney and the Birmingham guy who come back home to Alabama where he was a walk-on, won a national title. I think Dabo's appeal to Alabama has really faded, with Clemson fading, with Clemson not being able to adapt to the NIL and the portal. So I don't think that's going to be a possibility. I think Dan Lanning is probably their number one name, a guy who has been in the system at Alabama as a GA. He's worked for Georgia, Kirby Smart, and fits the mold of a young and up-and-coming coach, which is what Greg Byrne, the AD at Alabama, has hired. When he made his basketball hire, when he made his baseball hire, he's gone younger, he's gone up-and-coming. And Lanning, I think, would fit that mold. But Oregon's also probably in a better spot NIL-wise with their funding and their capability than Alabama is. And Oregon could make a pretty strong argument to keep Dan Lanning. So where do you go next? I mean, I think the same thing would hold true for Steve Sarkisian. I think Alabama would like to have him back. He was great as offensive coordinator. He was even interim coach for one game when Saban had COVID. But Texas is in a better spot NIL-wise than Alabama. So I don't know if you're going to be able to get either of those guys. So where does it go from there? I think Kalen DeBoer at Washington would be a name to watch. I don't know. SEC fans aren't too familiar with him, but he wins. And I think you will be able to get him, which, again, it seems strange to think like Alabama can't get a coach. But in this day and age, Alabama is a little bit behind some of these other programs in terms of NIL, and that's a problem.
Hey, Mike, awesome stuff. Love following you. You can follow Mike on Twitter at Mike Rodak for all of your Crimson Tide news, which I imagine we're going to have some Crimson Tide news real soon this offseason. Thanks again for joining us this morning on short notice, Mike. We'll talk soon.
You got it, guys. Thank you.
There he goes. Mike Rodak covers the Alabama Crimson Tide. And for all of the years he's been with his publication, he's covered Nick Saban. Well, there's going to be a new sheriff in town pretty soon. All right, coming up next, we're going to get back to some of the changes at the top in the NFL. But first, hey, Fletch, what are you doing later on today?
Don't call me Jim Russell. I hate it when people call me Jim Russell.
Well, I don't think nobody's called you that.
But I have a question to ask you guys, and it's a very Jim Russell question. Is being the biggest thing on a continent good?
Being the biggest thing.
The biggest thing.
But what if you're like the biggest a-hole?
Yeah,
What if you're the biggest daily fantasy sports app on the continent? In all of North America, Prize Picks is the number one daily fantasy sports platform you can possibly play. PrizePicks.com/Fletch is how you go get yourself a first deposit match up to $100. I'm telling you, I've been having a lot of fun playing with this Demons and Goblins promotion they've been running. They're non-standard payouts, right? So usually you could do 6 picks to win up to 25 times your money. Well, with the Demons and Goblins, you could actually flex that a little bit to do 6 picks to win up to 100 times your money. And that is when the payouts get fun. And that's when the payouts get huge. So make sure you get on over. If you got the skills, you can place your entry in just about 60 seconds. And if you have the skills, that payout could be coming your way. In the 5 or 6 weeks I've been telling you about Prize Picks, I've won over $800 with them. That's no BS. That's not blowing smoke. That's just looking at my account right now and seeing the number that I see. You're not playing against sharks. You're not playing against some of the best pro bettors in the world. You're playing against the numbers, more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you could start watching the winnings roll in. If you got the skills, you can make it happen, especially if you go with the Demons and Goblins promotion. I was looking at Prize Picks this morning, kind of working my way through the NFL weekend. I'm going to wait a little bit because I don't love some of the numbers that I'm seeing right now. But as Friday and Saturday come along, I think I'm going to start to like to see what I'm looking at, and I will share my picks with you so you can pick alongside me at Fletch Sports on both Instagram and X. Quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types. That's what makes Prize Picks the number one daily fantasy sports app on the continent. Get on over to prizepicks.com/Fletch, prizepicks.com/Fletch for a first deposit match up to $100.
Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. If you're listening on the free iHeartRadio app, we thank you for that. Share a link with a friend. That is the best way to support this show. And if you are a newcomer to the iHeartRadio app, it is really simple in terms of the interface. They have a little search bar. Type in Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. You will find our podcast page. Fletch does a great job of posting the podcast immediately after every single show, so you can see all of our shows there. You can listen back. It's really, really awesome. So free iHeartRadio app, go get it. Also, we're going to have tickets to Def Leppard and Journey at Petco Park. That's an August 30th show. Tickets and info available right now at livenation.com. But if you want a pair to go see Journey and Def Leppard, keep listening to this show. It's been the lead story all day. We haven't really diverged from the topic yet, but a couple of new vacancies at the top of the NFL and college football. Nick Saban retiring, Pete Carroll stepping down into a special advisory role. Bill Belichick and the Patriots expected to announce at noon in Foxborough that Bill and the team are going to part ways. Which of the three, I don't think we asked this question of ourselves yet, which of the three surprises you the most? TD?
Surprises me the most.
You think about Saban, Carroll, Belichick.
Surprises me. I guess I felt like I knew Bill Belichick, something was going to happen there. However, I feel like that's the biggest domino to fall. Pete Carroll, I guess I felt like I knew something was going to happen. I think Saban kind of caught me by surprise, even though there was also discussion of that. I guess I just wasn't waiting on that one.
Yeah, Fletch, what about you?
It's got to be the Saban one, because I figured there was too much ego there for him to not try and figure out the new world of college football. And I do think that is the driving force behind his retirement, by the way. I think he sees what's coming down with NIL and transfer portal, and he's like, look, I've already mastered my college football. I'm not going to go out and master your college football. So now I think it's time for him to just go, and at 72 years old, he might not want to change. And it would have to be a drastic change for him to keep Alabama in Tuscaloosa as relevant as it has been since he's built this powerhouse, because people are going to start realizing, oh, I can make $1 million to not live in Alabama. I'm going to do that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Alabama has its charm.
Of course it does. Everywhere does, but it's not LA.
I will say this.
Which I hate LA, but
I think that the Nick Saban
song says.
We love it. Randy Newman. I think Nick Saban's the most surprising because of the run Alabama just went on.
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, a little bit of wonky earlier this season. Tommy Rees, their offensive coordinator, started a quarterback who I think lasted only a couple of games. And then all of a sudden, Jalen Milroe, who started the season as a backup, really transformed the offense into what you saw as the finished product in the college football playoffs against Michigan. And they took the champs all the way to overtime to eke out a win over the Crimson Tide. And so that's surprising. When a coach is still at the very tippy top of his game, when you have another playoff visit, if you're Nick Saban, now's the time. I mean, there's no comfortable endings in football. I talk about this a lot. It's very rare that you see someone step away the game, whether they're a coach or a player, at exactly the time they want or the way they want. So maybe this is as close to it as he possibly could. And he said, yeah, well, job well done. I mean, it's not a perfect ending. I didn't win the national title for my team, but I got close enough and I can hang my hat on the fact that I tried.
Just trying to work a theory in my head quickly. Is there any truth to the fact that maybe he sees what's going on with Jim Harbaugh at Michigan and the witch hunt that this has been over a full season, and be like, well, what if they start turning their eyes towards me? Even if they are buttoned up at Alabama, if people get ticked off enough, they'll try to go find something deep in your backyard that you've done wrong over the years and try to just go after you and vacate wins and do all the things that they're trying to do to Harbaugh at Michigan right now.
Maybe, but Harbaugh is disliked. Saban is not, right?
Well,
have you been beating everybody for 17 years?
Yeah, but
here's the thing. Nick Saban, if you remember, him and Jimbo Fisher
hate each other.
Well, they had that big falling out over Nick Saban talking to a group of wealthy alumni and boosters of the Alabama program and said, hey, look, Jimbo's bought his team. He's bought his whole team. And he said it in plain English. Like, basically, he was encouraging the group he was speaking to spend more money with him and the Alabama Crimson Tide. If anybody has any belly aching or wondering why other teams are out recruiting Alabama, it's because they're spending money to do so. So that was a dust up that I don't think he wanted to go as viral as it did. But when it did, I bet you the way that resonated with him after the fact was, yeah, this is an environment that's like you put it, Fletch, really unlike the environment he started in college football. And I like many coaches, he stated publicly he doesn't like where college football is heading. So maybe this is the parachute, pull the parachute, pull the cord, get out now. Maybe he'll go coach as an assistant somewhere else. Maybe he's done for good. We'll see. But yeah, for sure, that was the most surprising. More on this coming up next. Obviously, there are going to be replacements, Carroll and Belichick at the NFL level, Saban at the college level. We have barely scratched the surface on that. We'll get back to that. But Fletch, I got to tell you something.
I know it.
That polo,
I know it.
about 4 months ago.
You're right.
That would have been
Medium.
That would have been skin tight.
Oh, yeah.
You would
Sausage casing.
you would have been bursting at the seams.
You guys, you both do this thing where you're trying to be nice to me, and then it just descends into madness immediately.
No,
but you were
no.
right. I was a sausage casing.
We're saying
What
you're
are you
looking.
saying?
No,
You look
you
so
You want me to
good.
oink for you?
Okay, well,
I was a
okay.
piggy.
Yeah,
You
wow.
were, but now you're a skinny pig.
It's okay. I'm the skinny piggy now. One of those little cute ones, the teacup piggies. But when you think about how I got here, it's all because of SDFatLoss.com and Wayne and Chloe, our weight loss team over there. The wife's birthday is coming up next week. Can't wait for Kendall's birthday. But with that comes seeing family. And with that comes seeing family who hasn't seen me since I was the big fat piggy that I was. And I can't wait to do it because I'm going to be able to look at all of them and be like, look at me now, mofos. And it's because of SDFatLoss.com. We got the free consultation with Wayne and Chloe, and they set us on this path. And now I'm getting back on the path because for a while, the main maintenance phase was just that. I was holding at 234 and I wanted to get back down lower. Well, this morning I wake up, I'm in the 220s again. So thank you to SDFatLoss.com and everything that they've done for me, helping me achieve my personal goals. If you have some personal goals for 2024, if you got weddings coming up, your daughter's getting married and you want to be looking good at the wedding and not have, that uncomfortable moment where you look in the mirror and see some spilling out over your jeans. Yeah, well, just get on over to SDFatLoss.com. They will take care of you. They will personalize your weight loss journey like they did with all three of us. And you can find out how easy it is for quick weight loss and, most importantly, lasting weight loss. SDFatLoss.com. Get a free consultation today. The morning is flying by. It's hour 3 on Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, and this update presented by Progressive Insurance. Starting off in the NFL after 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowl wins, Bill Belichick and the Patriots deciding to go their separate ways. It's not you, it's me. Pete Carroll out as the Seahawks head coach. That was definitely him. After 14 seasons and 1 Super Bowl win, Nick Saban retiring. 3 legends of the game all gone in less than 24 hours. In the NBA, Kawhi Leonard inking a 3-year, $153 million deal that, believe it or not, actually saves the team some money so that they can retain Paul George and James Harden as well. And in college hoops, Kansas loses yesterday. That means 1, 2, and 3. Purdue, Houston, and Kansas all losing to unranked teams in the last 2 days. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Yeah! Woo! Ugh. Ow, ow, ow. Happy Thursday to those who celebrate Big Rich, TD, and Fletch with you. I've had too much coffee. Like, I know when I've had...
It's like 3 cups in one.
Yeah, we triple bagged the coffee filter. That sounds dirtier than it is, I promise you.
I want to know if it actually makes a difference caffeine-wise or if it just tastes stronger.
Oh, no, it certainly does.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
It might be mental.
Think of it this way. So,
adding more coffee.
if you have the same amount of water, but you have more exposure, more surface area, I should say, of the roasted coffee bean grinds, you're going to extract more concentrated flavor, but also more concentrated whatever's in coffee, which includes caffeine. So 100%. I mean, this is...
Kicking Horse Coffee confirms the amount of caffeine is decided by the amount of coffee used when brewing.
There you go.
So more grounds, more caffeine.
That's correct.
More caffeine.
Want more caffeine kick? Then just add more coffee.
Dude, it is one of those 3 cups days here at Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, because we're wall to wall on the changes in the NFL and college football. So Nick Saban announced his retirement. Pete Carroll, he's stepping down from head coach to a special advisory with the Seattle Seahawks. Nick Saban, did I already mention that? Nick Saban announcing his retirement.
You've had 3 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
It's okay.
And so have we. So I don't know.
Bill Belichick parting ways with the Patriots. So those 3, Pete Carroll, Belichick, and Saban, all 3 within 24 hours, who, by the way, oddly, off the same exact coaching tree, announcing that they no longer are going to be head coaches with their current franchises.
You have hinted at this a couple times this morning. What is your grand scheme here that you're thinking is going to happen? Are all 3 of them going to go coach together somewhere?
It goes beyond that. Do you want to hear my prediction?
Yeah.
So the Dallas Cowboys are going to lose in the first round.
Okay.
And then Jerry Jones to the Packers. And Jordan Love looks like the Green Bay Packers have found their next franchise quarterback.
So the Cowboys once again fall in the postseason to the hands of a Green Bay Packers quarterback, and it's different from the 2 Hall of Famers that preceded.
Good.
And all of a sudden, Jerry Jones just freaks out. And he's just like, I'll tell you, I just don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm beside myself. I'm talking to my son, Steven, right now, who's holding my head in his lap and just petting my hair.
Is he dying?
No, I'm just very upset. I'm Jerry Jones.
Calm down.
I'm very upset. Yeah, sometimes if you just stroke my hair, but not like over the top of my head, not like a little boy, but just like gently behind my earlobe, that makes me. It comes. I don't know. What is that? The sympathetic nerve? Either way, look. The point is, I'm an upset Jerry Jones, and we need to launch into a new direction. So I'm going to hire Bill Belichick, and I'm going to allow him to hire his staff of former head coaches, which include Nick Saban and Pete Carroll and Mike Vrabel, as well as Billy O'Brien and Josh McDaniels. I want them all in the building. I want.
You sure Josh McDaniels?
I want the entire. That's right, Josh McDaniels. I want the entire coaching tree of Bill Belichick in the building.
Don't forget
with
Tom Brady. He's going to be there somewhere.
Tom Brady. He'll be a special advisor. I'm Jerry Jones, and I approve this message.
Man, it would be crazy to see all that happen and for the Cowboys still to be knocked out by a Green Bay Packers quarterback not named Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre.
Right. Is Dak Prescott the answer there in Dallas?
Yeah, actually, who knows? Maybe Tom Brady comes out of retirement and he quarterbacks the Dallas Cowboys. All I'm saying is, like, it
sounds like a movie in the making. It's like Wild Hogs NFL edition.
Yes, yes.
Tim Allen and Martin Short.
Tim Allen, Martin Short, John Travolta.
John Travolta.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, Wild Hogs. That's exactly what this is. Hey guys, we're getting the band back together, and we're doing it at Jerry's World. Team on three. 1, 2, 3. Team. Holy cow. Okay, so all right. We look at all these coaches and we say, well, what's next for these 70-year-old guys? Death. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding. No, I jest. They'll probably live until they're 105. Look, what's next for them, it's consequential and it will have an impact on the sport. But what's next for these franchises? How do you replace Bill Belichick in New England? How do you replace Pete Carroll? What he's done for 14 years in the Pacific Northwest? I mean, completely renovating that franchise in the future. How do you replace Nick Saban? So where do these teams go next?
Well, I don't know. I don't know, because it almost feels like you have to put somebody in the interim to let this all shake out, and then you can trade it out to something that's fantastic. Because where do you go after Tom Brady?
Yeah.
I mean, where do you
Cam
go?
Newton.
That's
yes.
right.
Yeah.
And Brian Hoyer.
And Mac Jones.
It worked so well.
And then it was Zappy Hour.
Isn't that what makes
Happy Hour the best?
Yeah,
what
so
the
do I.
Packers have done just crazy to you guys? Because Jordan Love is having success. How did they go 1, 2, 3 back to back to back? I don't get it.
Yeah, does Jordan Love feel like the franchise?
Dude, he goes out and beats the Cowboys. You're looking at 10 years of love.
Yeah, I guess. And I don't think he's bad, but I just don't know. It doesn't seem like an Aaron Rodgers.
Someone did one of those stat things where you do the blind quarterback, and one of the stats ended up being Jordan Love, and one of them was Patrick Mahomes, and he's had a better year than Patrick Mahomes has.
Ooh,
Wow.
You know, I mean, that doesn't shock me, because Patrick
should.
Well, yeah, it does shock me. It doesn't shock me watching the season play out, because Jordan Love, especially in the second half of the season, looked like looked like he was having a much better offensive time in Green Bay than Patrick Mahomes. You heard Soren Petro speak in disgust about these receivers. He was like, McCole Hardman looks like a left fielder who stares at the sky and can't track a baseball.
He said he looks at hot air balloons.
He said MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, looks like a guy who's 6'3" but has a catch radius of 2 feet because he alligator arms every single catch. He's a body catcher. So, and then he said Travis Kelce is old, injured, or distracted, or all three. So it's not like Patty Mahomes has had an easy go of it.
Apparently the fans out in Kansas City not real high on the team.
Yeah. All right, so morning monologue, we do it every day. TD, normally, look, this is a sports adjacent show. There's no question that we waver off the path often.
Yeah.
You are really the adjacent accent point.
This is supposed to be the 30 seconds, the minute that we want to get something off our chest.
That's right.
Okay. So, Life cereal, severely underrated, boys. I'm talking golden brown, checked square, mainly consists of oat flour, corn flour, whole wheat flour. Just a perfect amount of sugary sweetness, yet it still makes you feel like you're eating something healthy, right? And not a bad bowl sound as you pour it in the bowl. Sounds good. Sounds like I want to eat this cereal. Nice crunch, good mouthfeel. Not a lot of crunch stay once it sits in the bowl for a minute with the milk, but you look past it because even a little bit soggy still has good flavor, right? And it's good. It's good in the nighttime. It's good in the morning. It's good as a dessert. It's good as dinner if you want it. And the slightly sweet cereal milk, solid sip out of the bowl once it's been evacuated of the cereal itself. So I got to say it. Life is good. Life is real good.
What just happened?
Tell me I'm wrong.
The bowl sound was my favorite part.
Well, I'm telling you, it sounds real good.
So it's great. I could actually do a monologue about something very similar.
Yeah.
I'm not going to.
Is it going to be Fruit Loops?
You know what? I'm going to do the monologue.
Okay.
Here we go.
Do it.
I was going to go somewhere totally
Do it.
different, but the bowl sound is what convinced me to go this way.
Okay.
Do you guys know that feeling when you're on the golf course?
Man, I thought this was going in a completely
I
different
know.
direction. Bowl sound.
Because Rich, I'm assuming, are you going to go with head coaches?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
then I'm going to stay away from that.
okay.
I'm going to go with on the golf course.
Okay.
So when you're on the golf course and you are able to maybe hit a first good drive,
Mhm.
and you're able to see that ball go down the field and you're in the fairway, and then you get in the golf cart and you go over a golf course bridge. These are some of the most underrated moments in a human's life, is when you go on a smooth golf course bridge, not one of those like ones, but one that actually is very parallel with the earth itself. And you're able to just go over it smoothly. And you realize that everything is right in the world because you're with your buddies. You have a cigar in your mouth. You're drinking a beer. The first hole is looking like it's going to get underway in a real good way. And then you hit the bridge. And it's like the seamless transition from earth to bridge back to earth. I don't know that there's anything better than that. And I was watching a video yesterday of Tiger Woods going across a bridge. And I got to tell you, he had a smile on his face. And it's good to see Tiger Woods smiling again. After he ends his contract with Nike, did you see what Tiger Woods did on that golf course after he drove over a bridge? He was filming a podcast with some boys, the Foreplay guys over at Barstool. And he offered up a long drive contest with them. And so all the guys go. And, one of them hit a really good drive. It went about 320 yards. And Tiger's like, oh, is it my turn now? You know what Tiger Woods did? Got down on his knees and outdrove the 320-yard drive from his knees.
Wow.
What?
Wow.
Morning monologue booked.
By the way, TaylorMade offered Tiger $540 million for a new contract now that he's no longer with Nike.
He's
also,
so buff.
He's completely yoked. I thought when you were talking about bowl sound, I thought you were going to talk about the sound of the ball as it went into the cup.
No,
which is a good sound.
Yeah.
Good sound. Also in the movie Hook. Do you remember the movie Hook
with Robin Williams?
With Robin Williams.
Yeah.
There's one scene where he slices a coconut in half and the coconut spins. Yeah, that sound. That sounds good sound.
ASMR.
Basketball ball going into a net.
Oh yeah, that is good sound too.
For my morning monologue, I am going to talk about these head coaches, Pete Carroll, Nick Saban, Bill Belichick will be announced later on. He's stepping down as head coach of the New England Patriots. It's an end of an era. Look, boys, the dinosaurs got hit by an asteroid. Okay. The fall of the Roman Empire, that happened. Okay. Beepers and pagers are a thing of the past now. Waterbeds have had their time. MySpace is gone, gave way to the social media age. Ed Hardy t-shirts, Von Dutch trucker hats. If you want to participate in a flash mob on a Segway, drinking a Zima, sorry, time's up, folks. Eras change. Time continues on. But there's always a revisiting of the past. Sometimes there's a comeback. Sometimes you hit that U-turn and you say, oh, you know what? What's old is new again. Like wide leg jeans, I have a feeling this isn't the last of Belichick. I don't think it's the last of Pete Carroll. I think that there will be a Nick Saban sighting somewhere on a sideline in the near future. I don't think these guys are done, not by a long shot. I have a feeling we're going to see this era continue. It may be in a different colored visor. It may be on a different sideline, but not for a second do I believe that Nick Saban's retired, that Bill Belichick is happy, still sitting behind Don Shula on the all-time wins list, and that Pete Carroll is done chewing his gum, chewing the mess out of that gum on sidelines. So I really do feel like the era isn't over. It may just be beginning.
And you think it's beginning with all three of them together?
That was beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I feel good about it. I do think it's a possibility. Look, what's so weird is the timing. Like Pete Carroll and Nick Saban and Bill Belichick all coming off the same coaching tree. I mean, look, obviously Carroll and Bill coached under the Parcells coaching tree. Nick Saban was on Bill's staff in Cleveland. Pete Carroll wasn't a part of that staff, but even Mike Vrabel, that situation ends at the same time. He came off the Belichick coaching tree. I'm just saying, all of a sudden, this guy announces that he's leaving New England and he's got all of his friends available for hire.
Avengers assemble.
Avengers assemble.
I had a pager. I had a waterbed. I
Oh,
loved
boy.
my MySpace page.
Oh, dude, I guarantee there was no better MySpace page than Travis Dale's in high school.
Anytime anyone says I
High
had a
school.
waterbed, I get worried. What happened to that waterbed?
Yeah, what happened? To
I sold it.
Oh,
Actually, I
man.
gave it away.
Have you seen houses that get like messed up by waterbeds?
Yeah. Well, so the waterbed was given to me, but it was just like the weird like frame
Wait a
thing,
second.
and I had to go buy a new bag.
Are you starting a new MySpace page
Yes.
right now?
Yeah. I am, yes. Yeah. I was actually searching to see if my old MySpace page still existed.
It doesn't.
I don't know.
Does
It
MySpace
doesn't
still
even look the
exist?
same.
MySpace still exists, but Tom is no longer part of MySpace.
No,
Long time gone.
awful.
Yeah.
MySpace was after my high school time.
Oh, it was.
Yeah,
Oh,
I was
okay.
like in my mid 20s when MySpace came around. But
MySpace had such a quick flame out because it got super popular, and people when I was in
Facebook came along.
Yeah. When I was in middle school, it was the coolest thing. When I was in high school, it was losing traction. And then when I got to college, the Facebook came out. And all of a sudden, everybody was like, if you're not on Facebook, where you at? And I was like, well, okay, I'll get on the Facebook. And that really changed things. Look, but that's a great point. Like the whole thing changes. Everything changes constantly. And the reinvention of certain people, it happens also. We've seen this before. We've seen quarterbacks leave teams, franchises, they've had success. Matthew Stafford with the Detroit Lions, not team-wide success, individual success. He goes to the Rams first year, boom, wins a Super Bowl. Yeah, I mean, he was an older quarterback, but it's still possible for a second act to be just as or more successful than the first act. Tom Brady, it looked like things were starting to come to not a screeching halt, but slow down in New England. A lot of the personnel decisions weren't great. He gets out, he goes to the Bucs, he wins the Super Bowl with Tampa Bay. Now, I don't know how much of a second act that was because truthfully, the first act was really good. Second act was very short, but we've seen it recently is my point. So to say that Belichick or Carroll or Saban can't move on from these posts and continue having success elsewhere, I think I don't know. I just don't believe it.
Well, we've been talking about it all morning here. Bill Belichick fired by the New England Patriots after 24 years and 6 Super Bowl wins following a not great season, which saw the Pats rank last in the AFC East with a 4-13 record, marking New England's worst finish since 1992. And after 14 seasons, 10 playoff appearances, and the franchise's lone Super Bowl championship, Pete Carroll out as the Seattle Seahawks coach. Nick Saban, one of college football's coaching greats who won 7 national championships, and, I mean, honestly, turned Alabama back into a national powerhouse that included 6 of those titles, announced his retirement yesterday after 17 seasons. And in the NBA, the Pelicans briefed the Warriors 141-105.
I don't get that one.
Pelican brief?
Jesus.
It's a movie. It's a movie. The Bulls, Herbie Hancock the Rockets in overtime, 124-119. The Thunder down under the Heat, 128-120.
That is a male strip show.
They did that to them. Okay.
Yeah.
The Hawks, Cream Cheese Philadelphia in overtime, 139-132.
Sounds so dirty.
Utah, John Denver, 124-111. And the Clippers, Gangsta Raptors, 128-120.
Oh, man. That,
Blap, 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 blap,
dude,
blap,
that
blap,
is
blap.
a laugh.
Why Gangsta Rap?
Gangsta Raptor. You got to go.
Hang on.
I mean, he earned himself that lap. He knew what he was doing. He
So-
saved it for last.
I didn't get a halftime today because I really wanted TD to do the NBA scores. But if I did, I would tell you that I don't know if you saw this yesterday, Rich, but now 1, 2, and 3 in college basketball's AP poll, that would have been Purdue, Houston, and Kansas, have all lost to unranked teams within the last 2 days.
Yeah.
January 9th and 10th was a bloodbath in the NCAA for basketball, which should make us all, I think, be like, oh, thank God San Diego State won that game by 3 points instead of lost by 1.
Yeah. No, it's been by next Monday when they do the polling. San Diego State might be in the top 10 for crying out
If
loud.
they win against New Mexico.
They got to
Huge
get the
game.
win in the pit. Yeah, there's no doubt about that. Saturday, tip-off. It's going to be right here on your home of the Aztecs, San Diego Sports 760. Coming up next, TD teased this. during our interview with Soren Petro. Holy cow. The Chiefs, they may deserve to lose this game against the Dolphins just for doing this one thing.
It's not good.
It's not good. We're going to give you a little sampling of that coming up next. But first, want to talk to you about, I was maybe doing too much sampling.
We all were doing a little too much sampling.
I got a little frisky with the appetizers. I got a little heavy-handed with the main courses and desserts du jour. I mean, that means of the day, and I mean every day. It was a problem.
Some people are like, hey, are you like a sweet person or a salty person? Both?
Yeah, both. The answer is yes.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that is the scale doesn't become your. I had a scale that only. That's real cool. So I knew I had an issue, and I knew that I had to get under control. And we actually tried on our own as a show to get it under control, and we couldn't. So we called in the pros at sdfatloss.com. And when I say the pros, I don't mean like going to your doctor and having them prescribe some off-label medicine that's going to suppress your appetite for a couple of months or a couple of weeks while you're losing some weight. And then on the other side of getting off the prescription, the weight comes roaring back. What I'm talking about is pros who can guide you through the process of lifestyle change. Wayne and Chloe at sdfatloss.com have been invaluable assets, not only to our lives and in terms of like great conversation about lifestyle change, but in terms of our health. Like, I mean, look, we're in our 30s. Well, Fletch is still in his late 20s, but I'm in my 30s, approaching 40. TD's in his 40s. Like, you start worrying about your cardiac health. You start worrying about the extra load that your systems have to carry when you're overweight. The three of us we're no longer, and it's all thanks to fatloss.com. No more yo-yo dieting. No more losing a ton of weight and gaining it all back. Pros, like I mentioned, Wayne and Chloe over at sdfatloss.com. We've regained our health. We've regained our confidence because all of a sudden, looking pretty good in some of these clothes that used to not fit. Feeling pretty good about that too. So head over to sdfatloss.com. We've heard from a lot of our listeners. People listening to the show have Instagram messaged us, reached out to us on Twitter and X and even TikTok and mentioned, hey, I'm doing what you guys did and I've lost 20 pounds, 30 pounds. One of my most recent DMs is from a gentleman who I asked if I could name him on the show. He said no, but he said, I've lost 40 pounds. My wife is losing weight too. He's got to keep increasing his goal in terms of weight loss because it's been so successful. So if you too have some weight to lose, 858-665-3211 or head to sdfatloss.com.
This update presented by Progressive Insurance. We'll start off here in the NFL, where lots of head coaches have met their end here. After 24 seasons and 6 Super Bowl wins, Bill Belichick and the Patriots decide to go their separate ways. Pete Carroll out as the Seahawks head coach after 14 seasons and 1 Super Bowl win. And Nick Saban retiring as Alabama's head coach after 17 years in Tuscaloosa and 6 national championship wins. In the NBA, Kawhi Leonard inking a 3-year, $153 million contract extension with the Clippers. While that sounds like a ton of money, it's actually less than he was eligible for. When asked about it, he said he hopes that he will keep Paul George and James Harden with the Clippers as well. In college hoops, Kansas loses to UCF yesterday. The top 3 teams in the country now have all lost to unranked teams in the last 2 days. Progressive Commercial Insurance flexes to fit your business's needs, from quick repairs to adjustable coverages and even payment options. Progressive Commercial makes it easy to get what you need. Quote today in as little as 6 minutes at progressivecommercial.com.
Big Rich, TD, and Fletch, San Diego Sports 760. I am setting an alarm right now, Rich, to make sure we give away these tickets. You know?
We don't do that. We often promise and we forget to do it. So we're going to tell you what time that alarm is set for in just a few minutes. So be listening for your opportunity to win Def Leppard, Journey tickets, Petco Park. The show's August 30th. If you want your hands on those tickets, we have a pair to give away. And if you want more information, head to livenation.com. Okay, so the Chiefs. We teased this before the break. The Chiefs may have made the biggest era of their postseason, and the postseason hasn't even started.
Fletch is in on it.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know about all the way in. I like what they did. It was too long. It's 3 minutes of the Hallmark movie commercial, but it is too long. It is the perfect amount of cheesy though. And they get the punter in that has the long hair. You know, he's in it as a hairdresser. Donna Kelsey's in it as like the Morgan Freeman of the spiritual guide, the moral compass of the thing.
So it's a promo video for the postseason that they tried to make look like a Hallmark movie.
Here's the highest compliment I can give them. This is something we would do.
Okay, yeah, but we would have done this better.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on.
I mean, that's why I think they fall short of it. They didn't go cheesy enough.
These are professional football players. We are professional idiots.
Yeah, that's true.
We actually get paid and not bad money to just clown around all day long.
That's also true.
All day. And so, yeah, they stepped into our realm, and I don't know if we're the Kansas City Chiefs of what we do.
Right.
They're like the Arizona Cardinals of what we do. So give this a little snippet, a little tease, a little teaser.
Want. I don't know how it'll translate to radio,
yeah,
but
let's just
we can give it a try.
Yeah, quick tease.
You should save that clip.
Yeah.
Shut the hell up. You should save just that piece.
Just
Come on, Ben. Forget it.
She'll never go for you.
Look, I understand where they were going. I understand the funny, and I compliment that part of it.
Yeah,
but who's editing this thing?
Well,
I mean, trim that sucker down.
Well, also big voice guy. They didn't put the effect on him at the very beginning, so he sounded like a normal dude. And then it was like they deepened his voice after.
Yeah, but Hallmark Channel isn't big, deep voice guy. Hallmark Channel is loving. And they met and they didn't fall in love.
That's a good point.
And it's always some guy who owns some shop in some small town. And
Yeah.
the big city journalist comes into town.
And it's always in a business that no longer exists, at all. It's he was a typewriter salesman in a small town in Wisconsin. She was a big city, Twin City tycoon who just needed a change.
Back to her roots.
Yeah.
Never watching playoff football ever again. Yeah, you guys didn't feel the heart in that?
Oh, dude. Here,
like it missed for me.
Here's what's interesting. After a season filled of people, kind of talking about how distracted the Kansas City Chiefs are with all this,
That's true.
With all this Taylor Swift stuff. I think the wrong way to go is like, hey, our social media department, which is filled of 20-year-olds who have never actually seen a football. In fact, one of them's busy licking one. They're looking like they want us to cut a video and spend like time while we should be resting, recovering, studying film, in meetings together, cutting video B-roll for a very special social media presentation that is going to only excite maybe a handful of Chiefs fans. The rest of them are going to be like, get back to work. You guys had the worst December since Mahomes has been starting.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
they
far,
were,
they're the only team that I've seen do one of these things.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering
Yeah.
if like the Rams release one, because the Rams actually do a really good job with this. If you've seen their draft videos over the last couple of years,
It's gotten better. The first one kind of gave
Just-
me the douche vibes.
well, they're spending like $1 million on these things.
I
But,
know.
Like, I'm curious to see.
Good.
I would never imagine a Hallmark commercial for like the Baltimore Ravens. It would be much more like tough. You know?
Yeah. And I don't know. Maybe the Chiefs are looking at this of, hey, we got a lot of Swifties here. We're going to try to capture that audience.
Oh my God.
And
that's
Donna
exactly what
Kelsey's
they're
in
doing.
it. So
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. That's a really actually astute observation, because the reality of football, and let's be very honest with what's happened with a lot of these franchises now, Vrabel moving on from his post in Tennessee, Belichick losing his job in New England, Pete Carroll stepping down. It really does feel like we need a softer, kinder football. And I'm talking about even the players need it, because they're getting babied at the college level. It is a very different atmosphere at these campuses, how these players are treated. It's just different. When I mean, we're not talking about long ago, 10 years
You're
ago.
talking about on the field or off the field?
Both.
Man,
both.
because even on the field, the NFL is getting a little bit softer.
Well, that's my point. I think there's a distinct scent of toughness and fiery head coach speech and, sort of like dictatorships. Like, it's now become way more democratic. Players have a bigger say in college. We're seeing this obviously in the NBA. I don't think it's improved the sport. I think it's made it, some exponent worse than it used to be. And I see it happening in the NFL. I mean, this is what happened when there's a power dynamic shift, and this is what it looks like. There's a lot of coaches who no longer fit the billing. Like, think about like Greg Popovich, like kind of running the Spurs with an iron fist for a long time. Even he's softened. He's had to adjust to it.
yeah, he went and grabbed a mic earlier this season while fan base was booing, or the Spurs were booing Kawhi Leonard, who now plays for the Clippers, obviously. He grabbed the mic at halftime and said, "Stop booing him."
Dude, yeah. I mean, think about some of the names that have recently retired.
Speaking of grabbing a mic, the Clippers, Gangsta Raptors.
You are about to earn yourself another trip
Okay,
around
but
this
Rich,
station.
to your point, Derek Togerson texted me a little earlier. He was driving around listening to the show, and this is what he had to say about exactly what you're talking about right now. Saban failed in the NFL and ran away because players had as much control as he had. With NIL, college football players are gaining more control, so Saban has lost a modicum of power, and he can't handle it, so he's running away once again. He's showing us what he'd always been, a bully. So if you need a softer college football, maybe Nick Saban just doesn't fit.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of my point. And really Derek's point too. It just sort of feels like we're on the precipice of a very different looking college football world. And then as a result, because there's always, that's the minor leagues of the NFL. That's where your players are coming from. That's where the massive majority of players are going to replace the current NFL starters. Tom Brady, who played for 2 decades, recently came out on his Let's Go podcast, and he was talking about how, it used to be as a quarterback, you had to throw a football to protect your receiver. And he was like, that's no longer a part of the game. He was like, there used to be strategy in defenders being able to defend the middle of the field. He's like, that's no longer a problem. Receivers don't have any fear going over the middle. Tight ends aren't going to get mashed if they just stand there waiting for a pass. Like, it's a completely different looking game now. And his complaints, they're well heard by a lot of the people who watched his entire career, but they'll fall on deaf ears with young players who don't have the sort of respect or admiration for the way the game used to be played, because they don't care. Well, and I remember not caring about the older guys before my time. I was like, well, who cares? This is what the NFL looks like now.
Yeah, it's just, and it's not just the older guys in the game complaining about it. I do think it is the NFL watcher who like the strategy of it. That so when you take that away from the game, that waters it down and makes it less fun.
It can. It absolutely can. We'll see. I mean, look, change isn't always bad. Sometimes it's for the better.
As of about 20 minutes ago, things are starting to happen with Nick Saban's Alabama team. Well, no longer his Alabama team. The number 9 overall recruit in the class of 2024, the number 3 overall receiver, already decommitting from Alabama. I think that's a tip of the iceberg. You're going to see a lot more people as today goes on of people either entering the transfer portal or recruits decommitting from Alabama, and there might be a whole new talent bed open for the rest of the teams in the country to go after.
Yeah. I mean, probably the college football landscape, like you said, Rich, is going to change dramatically. Not just because of Nick Saban, but I mean, I think this NIL money is going to see so many changes. There's the alarm, by the way.
Oh yeah.
So many changes that we don't even know what's going to happen, because I think that not only will it start to change the landscape of the game, but the game itself will have to change in order to stop some of these transfers and money being pushed around.
Going to be a lot of news coming out of the NFL as the postseason continues. Maybe more vacancies as more coaches get fired, and obviously we have a couple of new names around the block in terms of availability. So we'll keep everybody updated there. We're also going to keep you updated on this. How about at 8:43? That's right. I said it. 8:43. Your opportunity to win Def Leppard and Journey tickets. Don't call before then. Fletch will literally hang up on you. 877-767-4760. That's 877-SORG-760. SORG spelt with an S. If you want to win those tickets, you call in just at 8:43 and caller number 5.
Pick the live version of this.
I kind of like it. Yeah.
I kind of like it too. I kind of feel like
How do you spell Sorg?
SORG.
Okay, I always thought there was a W in there.
Sorg.
Like Sworg?
Yeah, like sword. There's a W in sword.
No. This is only a 4-letter word.
Yeah, Sorg.
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 It sort of feels like it's probably a curse word in like Latvian,
right?
And we just don't know it.
It's true. That's true.
Hey, you know what?
Speaking of swords,
every single time I hear a little Def Leppard, a little Journey, I start thinking about the good old days. Yeah. I get all fired up, get a little hot under the collar.
Hey, taking the jacket off.
Oh yeah, because I want to expose the guns. Check these out. All right, I've been hitting
look at this.
Hitting the P-ups.
Woo!
I've been hitting the curls.
Wow,
getting the traps.
You are all muscle.
It's all muscle, guys.
I mean
almost 100% muscle. From the belly button up. No, it's coming around. Look, in a big way, and huge thanks to Dr. Roy David, double board certified plastic surgeon over at Golden Triangle Plastic Surgery. He opened up a new branch of his clinic called the Man Zone. So what's the Man Zone? It's a place to get your T levels checked. If you're somebody who either currently struggles with low testosterone or somebody who might be curious whether their T levels are at the place they're supposed to be. I was one of these guys who was really, I don't know, I guess curious, but also like, I was like, I'm going to go in and get my testosterone levels checked and it's going to be fine. I had one buddy who was talking to me, a former player who I was a teammate of mine in the NFL. And he was like, yeah, dude, he was like, I was shocked. I was really low and it's helped me feel better in the gym, all these things. So I'm like, all right. I go in, I get my testosterone checked with Dr. Roy David over at Golden Triangle Plastic Surgery. And he goes, oh boy. He's like, well, we have a range between 300 and 1,000. He goes, you're in the low 3s. And I said, well, what does that mean? It's still in the average. He goes, yeah, but if you want to optimize your health, if you want to be feeling better on a daily basis, it's worth giving this a shot. I started getting testosterone replacement therapy and I've never felt better in my adult life. I feel like I'm 20 years old again. I mean,
you look like it.
Thank you.
I mean,
feel like I am. Holy smokes. I mean, it's a game changer. It's a life changer. So if you're in your 40s, 50s, or 60s, this is a no-brainer. My suggestion is get your testosterone levels checked annually. Like it should be a part, like if you go in and get your physical, it's time to book your appointment over at the Man Zone. Themanzone.com, by the way, is where you could get your first and free consultation. Mention 760, tell them I sent you. They'll get you in there. They'll discuss the treatment plan if you should have lower T level, or you may walk out of there, may say, hey, look, your T levels are fine. Come back to us in another year. We'll see you later. For me, it was worthwhile, and it's been an investment into my health. So I suggest everybody do this. Again, themanzone.com, themanzone.com. Mention 760, get your free consultation today. Coming up next, bottom of the barrel. Oh my goodness. We have aliens, we have obscene burgers, and we have sex toys. That's next. Big Rich, TD, and Fletch with you. That's right. Little journey for you this morning. That is the voice of Steve Perry.
Whew.
He'll bring the house down.
Yeah,
he doesn't have any problem bringing the house down.
No.
Mm-mm.
He'll hook that voice truck right to it and tear it on down.
That's right.
Yep.
That voice box, that larynx is so powerful that he's been known to crush beer cans with his throat.
Yep.
Peter
Just sitting on
Salas
the
has
table.
a question for you, Rich.
Go ahead.
Says, when I call over to Dr. David, do I just yell Sorg at him to let him know that I'm calling from this show?
Dude, please do. Dr. Roy David is like the kindest.
That's the key word, the code word.
He's like the kindest, gentlest practitioner I've ever met. And like, and you need to come to Dr. Roy David with open arms.
That was spot. Who
Who
was our winner, by the way?
Yeah. Who won the Def Leppard journey
Scott. Budweiser Scott?
I believe so.
Hey, right on.
No, and to
congratulations to all the Scotts out there.
perfectly
We got like 5 of them.
Great Scott.
great Scott. Better, the best Scott.
Barely the best Scott.
To be perfectly honest with everybody out there, I know we kind of goof around constantly about the people who advertise with us, but like we use all of this stuff. Like Fletch, he's on Prize Picks literally every day, and he constantly, incessantly sends us screenshots, as I do with Underdog, as you do with DraftKings.
Yep, exactly. It's like a war over here.
It really is.
Yet we still all partake in everything.
Dr. Jordan Colby is my dentist. Dr. Roy David is my testosterone clinic physician. So like
Wayne and Chloe are our best friends.
Yeah.
Tony Kanja is legitimately on our Christmas list.
Yep. And I love my GMC. Truly.
Toyota. I mean, it's crazy. We're trying our hardest to link ourselves with advertisers who we care about and that care about us, and also link ourselves with listeners who care about the show. If you like this show, best way to support it, share a link of it with a friend on the free iHeartRadio app. If you don't have the app, download it today. Even if you're downloading it without the intention of using it, if you like the show, shoot a link to somebody who you think might like it as well.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll listen on that.
So the new phone number, 877-SORG-760. Apparently SORG means sorrow, grief.
Wow, that's perfect, because all I am is grieving the loss of our old phone number with this new, I don't even know what to call it, horrific amalgamation of slammed together numerals that make a calling interface. It's awful.
I feel like you are really mean to this.
Hold on.
Yeah. Okay, sorry.
What if we could make some money here? What if we could sell the number to the Strasbourg Osteosynthesis Research Group, also SORG, founded in 1989?
Okay, listen, if you are the Strasbourg Osteosynthesis Research Group, I want you to reach out to 877-SORG-760. That's SORG spelled with an S, so we can give you this GD phone number. Sell you for cheap.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got offers in at like $900 for barcarfriday.com. Yeah. I would imagine Sorg is going to go for a lot more than that.
Do we have
the charts.
Do we have a intro to Bottom of the Barrel? Can't ever remember.
No.
I'll do one for you right now.
Yeah.
You ready? It's the Bottom of the Barrel with Big Rich, TD, and Fletch. Every story you thought you never knew.
They've been off the air for one day. Bottom of the barrel. Have you guys ever thought, what does outer space smell like?
Yes. Dude, daily I think about this.
Every day?
Yes.
I have not thought of it until I saw this article.
Oh my God. I can't tell you how many times I've thought about this. I was like, yeah, I guess you can't take the suit off, so we'll never know.
Well, you would think you could, grab a jar or something and capture it. Apparently, the astronauts, after they do spacewalks, they come back inside and their suits stink. So I guess space smells like a jar of farts.
You know what? Actually, I bet you space smells like trace elements, like gaseous elements, like what makes the rotten egg smell?
Sulfur.
I bet it smells like sulfur. I bet it smells like that type of stuff. That makes a lot of sense. All right, what else do you got here?
Out in Australia, McDonald's has a double Big Mac.
Jesus.
Okay. It's 4 patties. They're bringing it to the U.S. through January 24th. You can get a double Big Mac, which
Does that sound good or no?
Yeah, I think I'm in on that. I think I'd give it a go.
Butter alert.
I've never had a regular Big Mac.
I don't know how.
Did you see quadruple patty?
Yeah, You want to see a photo?
Yeah.
Have you guys ever done like an In-N-Out 4x4 or 8x8 or anything like that?
Just look at me.
Yeah.
Of course I have.
Look
Wow.
at that. Yeah. It almost feels like that's right.
My only complaint about McDonald's, the Big Mac, for years. Why on earth would you ever put the cheese under the patty?
It's a heated discussion.
You got to put the cheese on top of the patty.
On top of the patty.
So
Just
dumb.
flip the burger upside
It is
down.
dumb. Lou Penrose over at Kogo, I mean, he talks about this almost every day.
Dude, yeah.
I mean, it's a big deal over there. My problem with the Big Mac is you never really get them and they're actually like the photo. It's kind of like build your own Big Mac. There's a bunch of pieces in there you got to put together. So come on, McDonald's.
Maybe
get it
a cold take, but McDonald's burgers just aren't that good to me.
Did you know that Mark Zuckerberg, he's turned to farming? So he's bought a herd of cattle worth $270 million. He's now shipped the cattle out to his farm compound in Hawaii. Mark Zuckerberg is now a Bond villain.
Okay, well, have you seen what else he's doing on that property in Hawaii?
No, what is he doing?
He's dug out like a 40,000 square foot bunker for the end of the world, and now he's buying all his food for the end of the world. Mark knows something's going on.
We should head to that island.
Yeah, we might just knock on the door and just be like, "Hey, Zuck, heard you got cows now."
Could you imagine like 40,000 square feet underground?
You know what? I bet you it's probably not. It's not too difficult to get in. Like, I mean, all you got to do is like roll jujitsu with him, and you could probably become fast friends.
He doesn't
with him.
really seem like a guy who has too many friends.
Yeah, but
Hey, dude, do you
what
build
about us?
Do you build a 40,000 square foot concrete square and then just drop it into the ground and
No.
cover it in dirt?
The opening is very small.
Well, yeah. I
And
mean,
then, but you
don't
go
want
down,
people
he
know you're there.
literally has a mansion building a mansion underground.
I'm down with
What are you
that.
trying to say? I lost a lot of weight with SD Fellas. I'll squeeze into whatever
yeah,
opening
I
there
can-
is.
I can do it.
Manhole cover.
We got some thank yous to give out. First one is to Ren Petro out in Kansas City, getting us ready for the Chiefs playoff games. Also, a pair of guys talking about a pair of coaches who are no longer coaches. Phil Perry of NBC Sports Boston talking about Bill Belichick, and Mike Rodak. He writes for the Alabama 24/7, part of 24/7 News, talking about Nick Saban's retirement. Thank you to the Roadies, the Dogs, the Hangers, the Bangers, the Scots, because we got a lot of them. Thank you to Rich. Thank you to TD. We'll see y'all tomorrow.
Love that. Love that. Okay, keep it right here. We're going to have another opportunity for those Journey Def Leppard tickets tomorrow. As Ben said, Bar Cart Friday. Brought to you by Keg and Bottle. Looking forward to that. The Herd's next.
how many years they were here, how many years they coached, and what the position was. It was a great team effort, and everybody, put everything they had into it, and that's why we were successful. So from the coaches, the support staff, it's an amazing staff here that supported me in every way. All the scouting and all the football support people, from equipment, training, security, video, operations, and so forth, right down the line, dining room. I mean, it's all first class. It's all, extremely good. And, special thanks to Bears and Nancy. They've been here since day one, and, made my life a lot easier, or I've made theirs a lot harder, however you want to look at it. But that's, a big shout out to them. And of course, a great deal of thanks and appreciation to the players. Players win games in the NFL, and I've been very, very fortunate to coach some of the greatest players that have ever played. Some of the greatest players that have ever played for the Patriots. Some of them are already in the Hall of Fame. Many more are going. But again, regardless of how long any of the players were or weren't here, what their role was, or how many games they played, or even if they didn't win championships, I respect the way the players come to work here on a daily basis. All of them. I've coached, well over 1,000. But their ability to work, prepare, train, in the weight room, train their bodies, meet, rehearse over and over again, what we need to do things right to be successful, to win. It's just, I have so much respect for all the players. And certainly we've had, many that have been here for a long time and, had great contributions, and too many to name at this time. But, great thanks to the players. And of course, a great deal of thanks and appreciation to the players. Players win games in the NFL, and I've been very, very fortunate to coach some of the greatest players that have ever played. Some of the greatest players that have ever played for the Patriots. Some of them are already in the Hall of Fame. Many more are going. But again, regardless of how long any of the players were or weren't here, what their role was, or how many games they played, or even if they didn't win championships, I respect the way the players come to work here on a daily basis. All of them. I've coached, well over 1,000. But their ability to work, prepare, train, in the weight room, train their bodies, meet, rehearse over and over again, what we need to do things right to be successful, to win. It's just, I have so much respect for all the players. And certainly we've had, many that have been here for a long time and, had great contributions, and